Chapter 874. 3 Level 6 Origin Beasts. That was 3 primitive Emperor-level powerhouses. Although Lu Yong kept repeating in his heart that this was a suicidal act, he still agreed and did as he was told. After all, Li Zhongjie was so powerful. Lu Yong had heard about what had happened today from Su Baichuan. Li Zhongjie had single-handedly demolished Lingbo Hall. It was said that he had also torn the young man called the Ancient One into many pieces. It was hard to imagine, but it also let people know that Li Zhongjie was really ruthless. He didn't care about people's feelings and didn't give them any face. He didn't have any way out. He meant what he said. Since they were looking for traces of the level 6 origin beasts, they might as well go and find them. After all, if they could not handle them, they would naturally take the initiative to retreat. The Gu family. When the people from the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion carried the Ancient One to the Gu family, the entire Gu family was in an uproar. The Gu family did not originate from the Sacred Flame Royal City. Instead, it originated from the Jin region. It was said that the Gu family was one of the most powerful families in the Jin region. They had even obstructed the unification of the Xingyan dynasty. However, in the end, they had chosen to submit. To show their sincerity, they had established their own family land in the Sacred Flame Royal City. A portion of their bloodline had also come here to develop. This was to dispel the suspicions of the Xingyan dynasty's royal family. In fact, this was also a coordinated effort. As for how to make use of this advantage, it depended on the intentions of these people. The Gu family of the Xingyan dynasty was now considered a branch of the Xingyan dynasty. When the Ancient One was brought in, the entire Gu family was shocked beyond words. Someone had actually injured the Ancient One to such an extent. This was clearly a form of revenge. Anyone who saw the state the Ancient One was in would understand what it meant to be cruel and merciless. It was too horrible to look at. Who did this? The man who spoke was authoritative. He sat on a high seat and looked down at the Ancient One, who was being carried in on a stretcher. His voice was filled with dignity and anger. At the same time, it was filled with boundless hatred. The head of the Gu clan, Gu Yu, had been in the royal city for so many years and kept a low profile. At the same time, he had instructed his disciples to restrain themselves. After all, this was not the era of the Gu family. To put it bluntly, they had to behave themselves with their tails between their legs. After all, they were at the foot of the imperial city. If the Xingyan dynasty's imperial family casually caught hold of any evidence, they could directly take the lives of the entire Gu family. However, he did not expect that no matter how low-key and humble he was, he would be trampled on by others. This matter would not be resolved so easily. Su Hong came with the Vice Pavilion Master. Gu Yu had a bad premonition in his heart when he saw the two of them. Could it be that the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was also involved in this matter? If the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was also directly involved, then this matter would become difficult to handle. Behind the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion was the Holy Flame Royal family. For the sake of the imperial family, even if it was his most beloved child, the child he was most proud of, he had to endure this humiliation. This is a long story. The Vice Pavilion Master glanced at Su Hong. Su Hong's eyes could only look at the floor and then at the ceiling. In fact, this matter is also the fault of the Ancient One, the Vice Pavilion Master said. When Gu Yu heard this, he understood what this meant. Even if the Gu clan was keeping a low profile and was behaving themselves with their tails between their legs, it did not mean that the Heavenly Pill Pavilion Master could bully the Gu clan as they pleased. However, Li Zhongjie is also at fault. Since this matter has already happened, let's see how we can resolve this matter first. The Vice Pavilion Master said. In comparison, the Vice Pavilion Master had a clearer view of the situation. The Heavenly Pill Pavilion and the Gu clan did not have much interaction. Since the Ancient One had already been crippled, there was no need to care about anything else. Only those who were alive had value. Since the Ancient One was already crippled, to the Heavenly Pill Pavilion, he was directly a cripple. There was even less of a need to take care of him. Since everything was a matter, then it was up to the Gu clan to resolve it. When he heard the Vice Pavilion Master's words, Su Hong understood what the Vice Pavilion Master meant. If the Ancient One could still be saved, then the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was willing to mediate the situation and not let the relationship between the two parties become too tense. After all, the Heavenly Pill Pavilion had taken a liking to the Gu clan. It would not be good if both parties were unhappy. However, now that the Ancient One had already been crippled, there was no other way. For now, they could only rely on Li Zongjio. Moreover, Li Zongjio was the honorary elder of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Therefore, they might as well do Li Zongjio a favor at little cost. This was human nature. As for the Gu clan's revenge, based on the Gu clan's strength, they were honestly not qualified to take revenge on the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. There was nothing to boast about. The Heavenly Pill Pavilion had no need to care about the Gu clan. When Guyu heard the words of the Deputy Pavilion leader, his face had already turned incomparably ashen. He had already been beaten to such a state, yet he was still able to say that this matter had already happened and that they should properly discuss how to resolve it. In this case, it meant that the Deputy Pavilion leader had already decided to side with Li Zongjio. What? Apologize? My Gu clan's people were beaten to such a state by that brat, and you want the Gu clan to apologize? When Guyu heard Li Zongjio's words from Su Hong, he was so angry that he jumped up from his seat. If Li Zongjio was in front of him, he would have a real fight with Li Zongjio. There was nothing to be afraid of. Since that was the case, the most that awaited him was death. There was nothing to be afraid of. If that brat wants to destroy the Gu clan, then the Gu clan will wait here. Guyu said coldly. As the head of the Gu clan, anyone who heard such words would probably explode on the spot. He was looking down on the Gu clan. Since that was the case, even if it meant sacrificing the lives and blood of the entire Gu clan, he would protect the Gu clan's reputation. Vice Pavilion Master, Elder, the Gu clan is already aware of this matter. We are very grateful for your help. As for what happens after this, the Gu clan will deal with it ourselves. Guyu said as he stood up. Then he waved his sleeves and ordered the Gu clan's people to take the Gu clan's people away. It was not difficult to reattach the two broken arms. However, the origin pearl had been shattered by someone. Wanting to recover it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Most importantly, Li Zongjio had taken something that he should not have. It was the Gu clan's inherited flame seed. It was the thing that grew between the Gu clan's eyebrows. Based on this point alone, it was necessary for Guyu to ask for help from the Gu clan. When the Vice Pavilion Master and Su Hong heard this, they understood that Guyu was about to do something. However, as long as he did not go overboard, naturally, they would not ask too many questions. Clan Leader Gu, everything is negotiable. Please do not forget that Li Zongjio is an honorary elder of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. After the Vice Pavilion Master said this, he left with Su Hong. Guyu smashed a square table beside him with his palm. His eyes were filled with a terrifying cold light. Send a message to the Gu clan. Guyu said in a low voice. The Gu clan's people quickly made preparations. Li Zongjio had crippled the Gu clan. Therefore, the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's people were now ignoring the Gu clan. It could be said that the Gu clan did not care about the Gu clan's life or death. However, the inherited flame seed that had been stolen from the Gu clan was not something that Li Zongjio should have taken. If there was anyone to blame, it was Li Zongjio's own greed. Chu Taishan and Su Hong walked out of the Gu clan's main gate. That Guyu was obviously very angry, and actually didn't find anyone to send them off. It seems that the Gu clan's people are going to make a move. Su Hong sighed and said, the background of the Gu clan was indeed not simple. Otherwise, they would not have purposely forced the members of the Gu clan to come here and end up in such a state. If the Gu clan's main family really took action, the situation would indeed become a lot more serious. They better think about it. Otherwise, we will let the world know that the Heavenly Pill Pavilion is not only good at alchemy. Chapter 875. Most of the commoners did not know about the Ancient One's misfortune so quickly. However, this matter could not be kept under wraps for long. Some of the spies soon found out about it. After learning about the tragic fate of the Ancient One, some of them had a new understanding of Li Zongjio's character. Especially after learning about the whole story, they finally knew that not only was Li Zongjio not to be trifled with, But the rest of Li Zhongjio's clan members were also not to be trifled with. Otherwise, they would be making an enemy out of Li Zhongjio. What happened after that was much simpler. The Ancient One's name was quickly removed from the outstanding elixir list. The Ancient One was rather pitiful. He was an expert in alchemy, but he did not even have the chance to display his skills in alchemy in front of Li Zhongjio. If he had competed with Li Zhongjio in alchemy, he might have had a chance to show off his skills. However, he was immediately crippled. An alchemy genius of a generation was crippled just like that. It was simply unbelievable. Many people felt that it was a pity for the Ancient One. It was hard to imagine that such a thing would happen. However, the Gu family's matter would have to be carefully investigated. If the Gu family had swallowed their anger and humiliation, they would have been too tolerant. However, if they were to cause trouble for Li Zhongjio and wanted to deal with Li Zhongjio, the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion would not let the Gu family off. The Sacred Flame Imperial City would probably be in for another round of commotion. The next day, Nangong Wuji and the rest returned to White Deer Manor. However, they did not expect such a thing to happen in just a few days after they left. The strength of the Lingbo Palace was not to be underestimated. Without the support of the primitive emperors, White Deer Manor would not have been able to hold on. The main reason was that Li Zhongjio was not there. If he was, such a thing would not have happened. Fortunately, the matter had been resolved and the people in Whitestag Manor didn't suffer much damage. I didn't expect to be targeted by these people, Nangong Wuji said in a deep voice. He couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. If he was still in the White Deer Manor, this wouldn't have happened. Even Li Zhongjio wouldn't be so angry. This matter is already in the past. There's no need to mention it again. Don't leave for the next 2 days. I'm going out, Li Zhongjio said. Nangong Wuji nodded. This time, the three of them had gone out to obtain an extremely important material, which was also the most important thing that the formation of the mysterious gate needed. Who knew that the other party would take advantage of this loophole in such a short period of time? This made Nangong Wuji a little unhappy. If these people dared to act recklessly, Nangong Wuji would definitely not be polite. Nangong Wuji nodded when he heard that Li Zhongjio was going on a long journey. Don't worry. Li Zhongjio found the King of Fire. When the King of Fire heard that Li Zhongjio wanted her help, she agreed without any hesitation. If it wasn't something important, the King of Fire wouldn't leave her Ghost King Palace so easily. In the entire Holy Flame Royal City, only Li Zhongjio could invite the King of Fire. Li Zhongjio also brought along Li Yun. Lu Yong and Su Baichuan also went with them. Xiao Zhao was already able to handle the matters in the White Deer Manor. After all, with the help of Li Zhongjio's pills, even a dying person could be saved. Hello, Master. Li Yun greeted the King of Fire warmly when she saw him. The two of them got along quite well. On the other hand, Lu Yong and Su Baichuan couldn't help but feel puzzled when they saw the King of Fire. The King of Fire looked so young and shouldn't be that powerful. However, the King of Fire gave them the feeling that he was very powerful. Even Su Baichuan didn't know where the King of Fire came from. Since Li Yun was here, they directly drove the Qilin warship and soared into the sky. Boom! Outside the city, the Qilin warship soared into the sky and sped towards Tai Province with 5 people on board. Tai Province was definitely the birthplace of the meta beasts. The mountain ranges overlapped with each other. It was enough to see a chain of mountains that stretched endlessly. Within the Tai region, there were very few cities. This was because human cities were almost untenable here. It wouldn't take long for them to be destroyed by some abnormally ferocious meta beasts. This place could be considered the meta beasts world. Tai Province, Manghuang Mountain. Some time ago, someone discovered traces of the Yama Python. Among the grade 6 meta beasts, the Yama Python's entanglement is definitely one of the best. Although Li Zhongjio had close to 3,000 years of cultivation experience in his previous life, he was completely inferior to the 2 people in front of him in terms of meta beasts research. After all, these 2 people were experts in the field of meta beasts research. The Yama Python. Li Yun, who was piloting the flying ship, couldn't help but tremble when she heard this. She had never imagined that Li Zhongjio and the others would actually want to deal with the Yama Python. Mang Huang Mountain. This place could definitely be considered to be filled with immortal qi, with all sorts of ancient auras gushing out. Anyone who came to a place like this would definitely feel how insignificant they were. There was a vast mountain in front of them. Compared to it, the Qilin warship was like a small leaf. They traversed through the vast forest. Rumble! As the Qilin warship swayed, it immediately felt the terrifying aura coming from all directions. In the sky, groups of flying meta beasts were flying together. In such a place, it seemed to be an extremely comfortable, unbridled and free-living space. It was as if they had arrived at the meta beast's heaven. Even some of the younger origin beasts would approach the Qilin battleship. They flew around the Qilin warship as if they wanted to play with it. This made Li Yun nervous. She even felt that she was ready to attack at any time. However, after observing for a while, she realized that these meta beasts were just like children. They were just curious. It's the blue feather goose. This meta beast is gentle and usually won't take the initiative to attack, Lu Yong said. As the owner of the Yuan Beast Workshop, he naturally had to have the strength to convince the masses. Otherwise, how could he maintain the reputation of the Yuan Beast Workshop by merely killing a few people? Accompanied by a group of blue feather geese, the Qilin warship slowly came to the foot of the Mang Huang Mountain. The warship hovered. After all, there were ferocious meta beasts everywhere. If the Qilin battleship was slightly damaged, it would be very harmful to the Qilin battleship. This warship is not bad, the King of Fire said. Yes, it is not bad. Li Zongjio nodded. The King of Fire obviously wanted him to give the Qilin warship to him. However, Li Zongjio cleverly avoided it. They landed on the Mang Huang Mountain. The muddy ground under their feet was filled with an ancient and vast aura. In the Tai province, no human had ever set foot on this place. Now that they were here, they could feel the ancient aura around them. It even felt like the city was missing. The vitality around here is so strong, Li Yun exclaimed. It was also the first time that Li Yun came to such a place. She could truly feel the strong vitality and life that belonged to this primitive forest. I have a feeling that meta beasts will attack us, Li Yun said. Immediately after she said that, a group of meta beasts rushed out from the dense forest in front of them. They looked like a group of ferocious wolves, but their tails were as slender as a lizard. Lizard tail primordial wolf. Be careful, there are many of them, Su Baichuan said. Su Baichuan was still the one who had to scout the terrain and so on. The lizard tail primordial wolf was scared away by the meta beast that Lu Yong summoned. What Lu Yong summoned in his hand was also a rank 5 essence beast. Ice bear wolf. The body of a wolf, the claws of a bear. In addition to its majestic body, it was indeed very intimidating. Chapter 876. These people from the Yuan Beast Workshop were, in fact, one of Li Zongjio's hidden methods. Usually, these people would hide in the White Deer Manor. Recently, with the help of Du Lianyi, they had slowly opened up some businesses related to Yuan beasts. For example, some Yuan Beast shops would also sell Yuan beasts that were specially for viewing. Furthermore, these Yuan beasts did not possess much killing power. When these Yuan beasts were around, they would also attract a lot of attention. This would also alleviate the depressed mood of some young people who only knew how to train every day. Of course, this was just a small matter. Helping to incubate or feeding some high-level Yuan beasts, in addition to the business of Yuan beast eggs, was also a very important business. However, the people from the Yuan Beast Workshop also had fighting strength. After all, raising these Yuan beasts wasn't for nothing. The ice bear wolf walked in front. The group of lizard-tail primordial wolves wasn't a match for the ice bear wolf at all. With a light slap of its claws, the group of lizard-tail primordial wolves was scattered. Then, it led a group of people up the mountain. It wasn't an easy task to find these high-level meta beasts. These high-level meta beasts had their own living areas and they controlled the area. It was easy for them to find something out of the ordinary. Once they found something wrong, these high-level Yuan beasts had their own way of dealing with it. If they saw that the other party was weak, they would immediately rush over and kill them. If that was the case, he would directly charge out and kill you. Moreover, he would sprinkle your blood all over his territory so that the surrounding meta-beasts would know not to casually barge into his territory. Otherwise, this would be the outcome. However, if they found out that the other party was coming at them menacingly, they would pretend that they were out or hiding in their caves to sleep and pretend that they didn't know what was going on. Therefore, even these Yuan beasts acted according to the person. Don't think that these Yuan beasts were just a bunch of stupid beasts. According to the information, the sky hell python should be around here. Why can't I see any traces of it? Su Baichuan bound the information he collected these days into a book. Li Zhongjiu asked him to find 3 rank 6 Yuan beasts, but he found 5 Yuan beasts directly. He also found 2 more as backups. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to pinpoint the exact location of these meta beasts during this process. Or if the other party kept hiding and refused to appear, that would be the most troublesome time. Keep the map. This is already their territory. Now, it's not us looking for them, but them looking for us. Lu Yong glanced at Su Baichuan. The map even marked the location. Someone had seen the heavenly hell python at this location before, and based on their own experience, they had roughly defined the area. This way, it would be easier to search. Moreover, this kind of valuable information was often sold to some intelligence agencies for a high price. Therefore, many people chose to be in this line of work. Therefore, these pieces of information were obtained by people who risked their lives to obtain them. Su Baichuan also put away the map. Everyone looked at Lu Yong. Obviously, it was time for Lu Yong to perform. As the owner of the Elemental Beast Workshop, Lu Yong naturally had his own methods. He took out a stick of incense that was as thick as a thumb from his storage ring. He directly inserted the stick of incense into the ground and lit it up. As he gently rubbed it, the fragrance of the incense was slowly released and swept towards the distance. This is musk. All the meta-beasts that smell this fragrance can't help but approach it. To them, this fragrance is no different from the smell of their mate in heat. Lu Yong said indifferently. Since this was the Heavenly Hell Python's territory, only the Heavenly Hell Python would dare to come here. Even if the other meta-beasts wanted to come to this place, they would probably give up halfway. Appearing in the Heavenly Yama Python's territory basically meant that they would become enemies with the Heavenly Yama Python. Let's spread out. If we gather too much, the smell will be very obvious. Lu Yong said. Li Zhongjiu and the others scattered. Li Zhongjiu flew to the other side alone. The King of Fire and Li Yun also stayed together. After all, there were only 2 girls here. Lu Yong and Su Baichuan also stayed together. Although Su Baichuan didn't think highly of Lu Yong, after these days of contact, Lu Yong did indeed have the potential to do great things. At least in many aspects, Lu Yong's way of handling things was better than the previous owners. This also made Su Baichuan admire him more. At least he wasn't a pedantic person. The few of them waited on the treetop for a while. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. Li Yun placed her left hand in front of her right hand and tried her best to lean on the tree trunk. She was afraid that she would fall because this height was already more than 30 meters above the ground. If she accidentally fell from this height, Li Yun really didn't know what to do. Although it was said that flying in the airboat was higher, it was still inside the airboat. At least they had a place to rest. In addition, the surrounding environment was extremely terrifying. That Heavenly Hell Python, don't tell me it's an extremely large python. Li Yun muttered softly. At this moment, Li Yun also felt a gust of cold wind above her head. Immediately, Li Yun raised her head and looked up. Instantly, Li Yun's body stiffened on the spot and she screamed in shock. That scream directly broke through the clouds. The King of Fire also raised his head and saw the figure that suddenly appeared. As expected of a king who specialized in sneak attacks, the Heavenly Hell Python appeared above their heads. Furthermore, he had approached them without making a sound. Moreover, a series of disgusting scales could be seen on the Heavenly Hell Python's body. It even made one's scalp tingle. In any case, when Li Yun saw this scene, she couldn't move at all. She just wanted to immediately jump down from this place. Chi! The Heavenly Hell Python immediately rushed towards the 2 of them. It opened its bloody mouth, as if it was going to swallow the 2 of them into its stomach. The King of Fire slapped Li Yun with his palm and sent her flying. His other palm slapped towards the heavenly hell python's head. Boom! The terrifying power collided with the heavenly hell python, and a terrifying shockwave immediately erupted. The surrounding trees were instantly shaken and snapped. Hundreds of thousands of leaves were directly shaken and fell to the ground, filling the sky. Li Zhongjio's figure appeared above the heavenly hell python's head in a timely manner. As the desolate heaven essence in his hand spun, he ruthlessly smashed the heavenly hell python's head. Pang! The heavenly hell python's huge body crashed to the ground. Li Yun, who had just landed on the ground, saw the heavenly hell python land in front of her. She naturally ran in the opposite direction and screamed. The heavenly hell python, which had fallen to the ground, immediately turned its huge body and bit towards Li Yun. However, the heavenly hell python didn't succeed so easily. Li Zhongjio and the King of Fire both landed on the ground. With Li Zhongjio's current strength, the desolate heaven essence's power was almost unimaginable. Boom! The heavenly hell python's body was huge, and its scales were golden in color. Suddenly, the heavenly hell python spat out a golden light from its mouth, protecting itself within it. Not far away, Lu Yong and the others were shocked when they saw this scene. He forced the heavenly hell python to use its ultimate move so quickly. This move, Guardian Vajra, is enough to make the heavenly hell python invincible for a short period of time. It's trying to escape. Lu Yong immediately shouted when he saw the heavenly hell python's actions. Even without Lu Yong's words, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that it was trying to escape. Immediately, Li Zhongjio leaped and approached the heavenly hell python. Mountain overturning golden seal. Soaring flaming sea. The King of Fire stretched out his hand, and the terrifying flames descended, forming a sea of fire that trapped the heavenly hell python within. The mountain overturning golden seal smashed down with a boom, causing the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. Chapter 877. The protective golden light around the heavenly hell python's body shattered under Li Zhongjio's powerful attacks. After that, the Fire Wraith King's terrifying flame power made the heavenly Yama Emperor Python feel pain. The heavenly hell python let out a low hiss. Li Zhongjio and the others didn't understand. They continued to use their own moves on the heavenly Yama python, causing it to suffer unspeakably. Wait a minute, it seems to be begging for mercy. Lu Yong immediately shouted when he heard the heavenly hell python's cries. It had only been 10 minutes since the start of the battle, and the heavenly hell python had been beaten up the whole time. How could the heavenly hell python not care about its reputation after being beaten up so badly? The combined combat power of the two of them was beyond Lu Yong's imagination. The strength of the heavenly hell python before him was roughly at the 4th grade primitive lord realm. He was beaten to the point of begging for mercy so easily. It could be seen how terrifying the fighting strength of these two people was when they teamed up. Lu Yong immediately felt his head buzzing because the scene in front of him was indeed too shocking. Su Baichuan secretly memorized the scene before him. It was really beyond his expectations to have such terrifying combat power. Su Baichuan only knew that Li Zhongjio was ruthless when it came to killing people. However, after seeing him in action this time, he also understood Li Zhongjio's fierce style. The King of Fire withdrew the flames that filled the sky. The heavenly hell python was already on the verge of death. Li Zhongjio landed in front of the heavenly hell python and looked at it indifferently. Li Zhongjio wasn't even at the height of the heavenly hell python's nose. However, the heavenly hell python still breathed out a few times. Clearly, it felt like a human life was in danger. Submit to me. Li Zhongjio stared at the heavenly hell python. Then, a tyrannical mind power spread out. This caused the heavenly hell python's body to tremble slightly. Li Zhongjio immediately felt the extremely strong pressure coming at him. At this moment, the heavenly hell python suddenly rose to its feet and charged at Li Zhongjio with a power that could destroy heaven and earth. If Li Zhongjio were to be suppressed by the python, then he would have no choice but to bow down to the python. However, the King of Fire threw a punch from the side. The tyrannical power blasted the heavenly hell python's body, causing it to lie on the ground obediently. Li Zhongjio's mind power also forcefully suppressed the heavenly hell python at the same time. The power poured into the heavenly hell python's body. It immediately forced the heavenly hell monarch python to stay where it was, unable to move. Hiss! The heavenly hell python's body curled up. Soon, a strange light flashed in its eyes, causing the heavenly hell python's gaze to become extremely sharp. However, it soon became gentle again. With Li Zhongjio's mind power, enslaving another primitive emperor-level meta-beast was no longer a problem. Moreover, as Li Zhongjio released his mind power, he directly controlled the heavenly hell python and enslaved it. Almost instantly, the terrifying aura on the heavenly hell python's body gradually receded. The defense and alertness that belonged to the meta-beast was completely gone at that moment. This caused Lu Yong to be extremely shocked. To think that such a situation could happen. In terms of the ability to tame meta-beasts, Li Zhongjio's skill was domineering enough to tame such a meta-beast. Everyone couldn't believe their eyes. Spiritual contract. This is a skill that has almost been lost. Lu Yong looked at Li Zhongjio's actions and suddenly thought of the legendary mind contract. This was an extremely ancient legend in the beast tamer industry. Nowadays, they all relied on this blood contract. Very few people could use their own mind power to directly sign a contract with a meta-beast. This was already a very domineering method. Until now, there were very few people who could master the use of mind power at this level. Therefore, when he saw Li Zhongjio use this skill, he was very shocked and surprised. Li Yun hid in the distance and was completely unaware of what was happening at the scene. She only felt that Li Zhongjio and her master's cooperation was flawless. How many people would be able to withstand such powerful combat strength and destructive power? Just by thinking about it, one could imagine it. That fellow won't bite people randomly, right? Li Yun couldn't help but ask when she saw that everyone at the scene seemed to have relaxed. If there were any problems, she would have to run away quickly. She wouldn't want to play with these monsters in front of her anymore. They were simply stimulating her heartbeat. I've already tamed it. Li Zhongjio said indifferently. Put it in the Qilin battleship. The Qilin battleship was loaded with a special storage device. Even a meta-beast could be placed in it. There wouldn't be any problems for at least half a month. Huh. Li Yun couldn't help but open her mouth wide. Was she really going to put such a thing in her Qilin battleship? Since Li Zhongjio had said so, Li Yun had no choice but to summon the Qilin battleship. Fortunately, the heavenly hell python's body could be shrunk to a certain extent. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to hide in the cabin. The heavenly hell python's body was about 80% the size of the Qilin battleship. The heavenly hell python was stuffed into the cabin. The heavenly hell python was extremely obedient because it was now completely under Li Zhongjio's control. He could destroy the heavenly hell python with a single thought. Continue to find the next one. Li Zhongjio said. The purpose of this trip was to capture 3 level 6 meta-beasts. This was just the beginning. This sentence sounded really domineering to Lu Yong. It was as if he was treating the level 6 meta-beast as a wild boar that he could capture whenever he wanted. Come on, this was a level 6 meta-beast. How could he be so careless? However, when he thought about how he, a beast tamer, actually had the opportunity to come into contact with a level 6 meta-beast. This was a real level 6 meta-beast, not the kind that had a chance of breaking through. No one would dare to believe that it was a real king among meta-beasts. However, he had done it and witnessed it with his own eyes. Su Baichuan took a deep breath. They naturally knew what this meant. Li Zhongjio was even able to casually dominate a rank 6 Yuan beast. Li Zhongjio was much more terrifying than he had imagined. Chapter 878. They were still in Tai province, but they had already left the desolate mountain. Li Zhongjio and the others did not stop at night. Instead, they came to a cold pond. This mountain range was called the Cold Pond Mountain. Li Zhongjio and the King of Fire were lying in ambush outside the cold pond. Their target was not the creatures in the cold pond. Every night, at the edge of the cold pond, a 6th-grade meta-beast would descend to absorb the cold energy in the pond. Blackwind Blood Shadow Condor. 6th-grade meta-beast, the King of the Night. When it uses its ability, it can completely blend into the darkness. Even if you use your naked eyes, it will be hard to detect. Even if it is standing right in front of you, you will not be able to see it. Lu Yong explained to Li Yun. Li Yun finally understood and nodded. Do we have to deal with such a dangerous creature? Li Yun said in a low voice. However, when it came to dangerous creatures, Li Yun and the others did not need to deal with them. We can't deal with it. Lu Yong shook his head. Then he pointed to the front. With the two of them, I think we can sweep the entire Tai province. What if there are two of them? Li Yun asked curiously. Lu Yong blinked his eyes. Based on what she said, such a situation should be relatively rare. However, when Lu Yong turned his head, he saw two majestic figures flying in the sky. These two figures appeared and disappeared from time to time. They flickered in and out of existence. Suddenly, these two figures appeared at the edge of the pond and plunged into the cold pond. Because Lu Yong and the others' cultivation was lower, they were further away. Even at such a distance, they could still feel the cold energy of the other party. It was a bone-piercing cold. 2. Li Zongjio and the King of Fire looked at each other. They did not expect their luck to be so good to encounter two of them. If these two joined forces, wouldn't their combat power be even stronger? When Lu Yong saw the two appear at the same time, he already knew that things were not good. They must be a male and a female. Under such circumstances, the power of a meta-beast would be even more terrifying. Black-winged blood shadow condors were extremely rare. Therefore, the situation of these two beasts being together was really very rare, so Lu Yong didn't think of this at all. At the same time, he couldn't help but admire Li Yan's mouth. Everything she said was very accurate, and there was never any mistake in her words. However, this was not a bad thing for Li Zongjio and the King of Fire. Originally, Lu Yong wanted to call Li Zongjio and the Fire Wraith King back. After all, there were other options. However, Li Zongjio and the Fire Wraith King rushed out. As their figures swayed, the two black-winged blood shadow condors that were bathing in the cold pond also sensed the arrival of the enemy. Waves of cold air were released from their bodies. Boom! The power of the Fire Wraith King's Sea of Flames spread all over the sky. When the Sea of Flames was released, it also formed a relatively sealed space. It was almost impossible to break out from here unless one's power was above the Fire Wraith King's. Immediately, sparks flew in all directions, and terrifying fluctuations erupted from all directions. Li Zongjio, with the desolate heaven essence in his hand, was at a slight disadvantage at the beginning. Subsequently, he also beat up the black-winged blood shadow condors until they flew all over the sky. Many of their feathers were torn off. Li Yun and the other two were dumbfounded as they watched this scene from afar. Subsequently, Li Zongjio did the same thing. He directly subdued the two rank 6 meta-beasts. The strength of the two black-winged blood shadow condors was around the level of a rank 3 meta-emperor. With the strength of these two, it was very possible for them to kill a heavenly hell python. In a one-on-one fight, they would at least be in an undefeatable position. After all, they were flying meta-beasts with wings. To be able to subdue such flying meta-beasts was an extremely rare thing. Phew. These guys are really difficult to deal with. Li Zongjio could not help but wipe the sweat off his forehead. Li Zongjio had just been carried up and down by the two meta-beasts, smashing and pecking at him. If not for Li Zongjio's strong physical strength, he would have been smashed into a pile of meat paste. Of course, the whole scene was because the King of Fire was watching from the side. Otherwise, the meta-beasts would have disappeared with a slight flap of their wings. Therefore, the King of Fire was the most crucial part of this hunting operation. On the other hand, the King of Fire did not expend much strength. Just these two attacks were worth more than 1,000 upper-grade meta-stones. On the other hand, the King of Fire looked at Li Zongjio in surprise. Your mind power is really abnormal. Ordinary people would reach their limit even if they contracted a Yuan King-level Yuan beast. Li Zongjio had directly controlled 3 meta-emperor level meta-beasts just now. Moreover, it seemed like Li Zongjio was still in a state of ease. It was unknown how Li Zongjio had done it. Even Li Zongjio was curious. his mind power should not have reached such a level even with the support of the White Dragon origin spirit. Logically speaking, it should have reached its limit by now. Could it be? Li Zhongjio's heart sank. When he sensed it, he suddenly realized that he had unknowingly opened up a spiritual hell all by himself. Li Zhongjio was surprised that this was not something he had personally created, but something that had formed on its own. The Hell Prajna technique actually had such a miraculous effect. The spiritual hell that was opened up was equivalent to a huge space that could accommodate mind power. It was specially used for internal cultivation. Li Zhongjio could mobilize the reserve power from the spiritual hell, but he could not directly bring people into the spiritual hell. It was this automatically opened hell that helped Li Zhongjio accommodate the mind power of the Meta-Emperor level meta-beasts. Li Zhongjio also discovered the Howling Moon Wolf King and the Golden-Winged Blue-Tailed Eagle in this spiritual hell. However, these spiritual origins were not strong. They were only small balls of light. Only after breaking through to the Meta-Emperor level could the true form of the mind power be revealed. Li Zhongjio woke up from the shock in his body. Li Zhongjio already knew how shocked the King of Fire was. However, this power was still not enough. It was fine to deal with ordinary experts, but any expert of the 5th or 6th level Origin Emperor would be able to defeat them easily. They still needed another layer of protection. Although experts of this level would not casually kill these meta-beasts, if they saw these Meta-Emperor level meta-beasts appearing in the same place and seemed to be submitting to someone, they would not dare to act rashly. Perhaps there was a trace of an even stronger expert behind this. Li Yun and the rest looked at Li Zhongjio and the King of Fire as if they were looking at immortals who had fallen from the sky. Such a scene was really too shocking. Li Zhongjio's strength was simply terrifying. To be able to achieve this level, the two of them actually managed to subdue 2 flying meta-beasts so easily. Furthermore, they were Meta-Emperor level meta-beasts. If these Meta-Emperor level meta-beasts were stronger, they might even be able to speak human language. Su Baichuan and Lu Yong naturally broke out in cold sweat. Of course, they knew how much strength was needed to achieve this level. With the strength of Li Zhongjio and Lu Yong, it was enough to establish a first-rate sect in the continent. Especially the strength of the King of Fire, it was simply unfathomable. Although the two of them were not in the same realm, they still had the eyesight. The one who did all the work was Li Zhongjio. Although the King of Fire was said to be assisting from the side, in fact, he still had a card up his sleeve. In order to prevent any accidents from happening, he would only really take action when there was no other choice. Thinking that they were actually following a master who was like a god. At this moment, the two of them completely dispelled the idea of establishing their own sect. If they dared to do so, the outcome would definitely be very tragic. Chapter 879. Let's rest for the night and find the last one tomorrow. Li Zhongjio said. Li Zhongjio knew that the Gu family would never apologize to Li Zhongjio. In the eyes of the Gu family, Li Zhongjio was a nouveau riche with no background. How could they apologize to Li Zhongjio? Li Zhongjio let the Ancient One go on purpose. As long as the Gu family did not apologize, Li Zhongjio would have a reason to exterminate the Gu family. This was Li Zhongjio's goal. Otherwise, the Ancient One would not have survived until now. Moreover, if the Ancient One wanted to deal with the Li family, it would not end so easily. What was the point of killing 1 or 2 small fry? If he wanted to kill, he would kill them all. However, he could not kill as he pleased like before. At the very least, he had to find a few excuses. After all, in this world, strength was everything. If his strength had not surpassed the Xingyan dynasty, or even reached a level where the Xingyan dynasty would feel threatened, he would still have to act according to the rules of the Xingyan dynasty. The few of them rested nearby. As for the 2 black-winged blood shadow condors, they continued to immerse themselves in the cold pool, absorbing the cold aura of the cold pool. After being subdued, the only change was that they had to listen to Li Zhongjio in the future. Li Zhongjio had no reason to disturb them during their daily cultivation. Moreover, Li Zhongjio's White Deer Manor had a large mountain range and open space. It was enough to build a living environment for these creatures. In the future, they would be raised on the mountain. It was better than keeping them in the courtyard and jumping out to scare people. It was difficult for outsiders to know what was happening in Tai Province. However, in Sacred Flame Royal City, a few important people had arrived. After the main branch of the Gu clan received news of the situation in the Sacred Flame Imperial City, they made a prompt decision and sent 2 elders over to take charge of this matter. This time around they had to kill Li Zongjio. This was because they had the backing of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. If they couldn't deal with this matter properly, then their Gu clan would completely lose its prestige in the future and become a power that could be bullied by anyone. This wasn't something that the Gu clan's ancestors wanted to see. They could subdue the Xingyan dynasty, but it was impossible for a wild guy who had jumped out of nowhere to ride over their heads. In addition, he also needed to snatch back the Gu clan's inheritance flame. This item was extremely important to the Gu family. If it fell into the hands of others, it would bring disaster to the family. A group of people dressed in black arrived at the Gu family's residence. There were no firecrackers to welcome them, but the head of the Gu family, Gu Yu, personally came to welcome them. There were a total of 7 people, but the strength of these 7 people was comparable to the 4 great families in the city. Gu Yu respectfully welcomes the elders of the Gu family. Gu Yu bowed and said. Furthermore, he knew that the main family had attached great importance to this matter. They had actually dispatched Gu Chuan and Gu Hai, the 2 great elders. Who knew how much blood had been spilled by Gu Chuan and Gu Hai's hands? The murderous aura on their bodies was enough to permeate the air. The Gu family was able to have such a high position in Jin province, and even the sects in the surrounding cities followed the Gu family's lead. These achievements were not obtained by praying to God or Buddha. They were obtained by killing with a blade, a spear, and one head after another. This was the only way to establish the Gu family's position. These 2 elders could be said to be the pioneers of the Gu family's operations. Wherever there was trouble, where there was dissatisfaction, or where there was a problem, these 2 elders would lead the team. The 5 people behind them were all experts in the Gu family's elite cloud guards, and each of them killed without batting an eyelid. Don't talk nonsense, take out all the information on Li Zongjio. Gu Chuan raised his hand, indicating that Gu Yu did not want to waste any more time. Gu Yu also quickly took out the information he had prepared and handed it over to Gu Chuan. The group of people sat in the meeting hall. Originally, some of the elders could only stand at the side. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Even Gu Yu could only sit in the lower seats. The 2 elders sat in the 2 main seats. The entire conference hall was silent, and only the sound of the heavy and slow reading of the information could be heard. Heavenly Pill Pavilion, Honorary Elder? Grade 6 Alchemist? When Gu Chuan saw these few pieces of information, he frowned, because this matter seemed to have become complicated. However, after a moment of silence, this matter must be done quickly. Tomorrow, we will pay a visit, Gu Chuan said in a deep voice. The connections of a grade 6 alchemist were not simple. If Li Zongjio was given enough time, he might be able to summon them and prepare enough strength to deal with the Gu family. The reason for this matter was no longer important. Since Li Zongjio had gone too far, he did not think of a normal reconciliation, and the Gu family would definitely not ask for peace. The only solution was to fight. If they did not fight now, when would they fight? No matter what, we must take back the fire seed. The 1000 Machine Workshop had already received the news that the Gu family was coming. They reported it to Xiao Zhao. When Xiao Zhao heard the news, he quickly gathered Nangong Wuji and the others and explained the matter. Given the nature of the old men in the Gu family, they will definitely come tomorrow, Nangong Wuji said in a deep voice. Mr. Dong Sun, please stay in the corner of the north courtyard for a few days. The person who had come was called Mr. Dong Sun. He was not a local expert. Instead, he was an expert from a second-tier city. In the end, he was discovered by Song Jiyu, who then directly recruited him. Of course, he had also secretly helped Mr. Dong Sun solve a lot of problems. Chapter 880. After Mr. Dong Sun was settled, another person came to the White Deer Manor. When this person arrived, Nangong Wuji personally came to greet him. Brother Zhou Zheng, what brings you here? Nangong Wuji walked out to greet him. Zhou Zheng was dressed in a long, loose robe. He stood on the spot like a towering mountain that pierced through the clouds. His back was straight like a mountain. Nangong Wuji was surprised to see Zhou Zheng, but at the same time, he felt reassured. I was fortunate enough to meet alchemist Li Zongjio a few days ago. This time, I'm here to ask for medicine. When Zhou Zheng saw Nangong Wuji walking out, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he greeted him with a warm smile. Nangong Wuji was not simple. He was an influential figure more than 10 years ago. Later, he was injured, so he went into seclusion. Now, it seemed that he had recovered from his injury, so he showed some signs of activity recently. Zhou Zheng and Nangong Wuji could be considered people of the same era. However, Zhou Zheng also heard about Nangong Wuji's various deeds in that era. At the same time, he also regarded Nangong Wuji as his goal. He was determined to surpass him. Please come in. Let me introduce you. This is the housekeeper of the White Deer Manor, Miss Xiao. Only Li Zongjio and a few elders would call Xiao Zhao this way. Ordinary people would call her housekeeper Zhao. I've long heard that there's a talented and intelligent woman in charge of Li Zongjio's mansion. I've long heard of your great name. Headmaster Zhou, you flatter me. Xiao Zhao said with a faint smile. If it was in the past, Xiao Zhao would have knelt down to salute these Yuan kings or even Yuan emperors. However, it was different now. Xiao Zhao was the housekeeper of the White Deer Manor. If she lost her sense of propriety, she would lose face for Li Zongjio. Therefore, Xiao Zhao's aura gradually became stronger. One day, even surpassing Song Jiyu would not be a problem. Of course, in Xiao Zhao's heart, Song Jiyu had always been his opponent. Xiao Zhao naturally left Zhou Zheng to Nangong Wuji. During this process, he didn't need to do anything. Everyone was clear about Zhou Zheng's intentions. He looked at the people from the Gu family. If something were to happen, they would be able to act as a matchmaker. However, their main purpose was to protect Li Zongjio's White Deer Manor and let Li Zongjio feel the sincerity of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. This was the true intention of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. It wasn't hard to see that Li Zongjio was a person who cared a lot about relationships. For this kind of person who valued relationships, it was also very simple. Let him feel your sincerity, and at the same time, protect the things he cared about. Then, there would be no problem at all. Kuan Arashur had been living in the Mirror Moon Manor recently. The news was not well received. However, when Shueiyue heard the news, she wanted to run over and tell Kuan Arashur, but in the end, she was put under house arrest in the palace. She only had time to send out a messenger pigeon. Shueiyue didn't expect that her father would put her under house arrest at this time. It seemed like he didn't want her to participate in this matter. In the face of an opponent of this level, the power of the Joyous Casino was completely useless. It was impossible for them to get on the stage. They only needed to know their place. However, the Gu family also knew about the movements in Li Zongjio's White Deer Manor. Gu Yu reported this matter to Gu Chuan. It seems like Li Zongjio isn't in the manor. What's the use of gathering these shrimp soldiers? Immediately track down Li Zongjio's movements. In addition, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Go and contact our good friend. The corners of Gu Chuan's mouth curled into a cold smile. Li Zongjio is still too inexperienced to play these tricks. If you want to blame someone, blame Li Zongjio for offending so many people. At first, Gu Yu didn't understand who Gu Chuan was talking about. However, he soon remembered a force. The Mystic Yuan sect. The people of the Mystic Yuan sect couldn't wait to tear Li Zongjio into pieces at any time. Li Zongjio had killed so many people of the Mystic Yuan sect. They had to take revenge for this. Since Li Zongjio wasn't in the Sacred Flame Imperial City, this matter was even easier to handle. The Gu family's intelligence network also started working quickly. All kinds of clues pointed towards the direction of Li Zongjio. Even if there was no news, they could directly go to the Rain Pavilion and buy information with money. This Kuan Arashur has a good relationship with Li Zongjio. Do you guys think that Li Zongjio will come here for this guy? Gu Hai, who rarely spoke, said. The more ruthless a person was, the less he spoke. His words directly pointed out the main topic. Kidnap Kuan Arashur, then force Li Zongjio to go outside the city. After dealing with Li Zongjio, they would deal with the White Deer Manor. They would kill everyone related to Li Zongjio and Li Zongjio. This was their goal. If they wanted to do it, they had to achieve true deterrence. Otherwise, they would think that they were just words. Tai Province, Tsangcheong Mountain. It was said that this mountain was once connected to the top of Tsangcheong. At the top of this mountain, one could see the entire Shangwu continent. But later on, two powerful meta beasts fought here, causing Tsangcheong Mountain to shatter. At the same time, there were many abnormally powerful meta beasts in the vicinity of Tsangcheong Mountain. With the strength of these meta beasts, no one dared to approach. Tsangcheong Mountain had even become a paradise for these meta beasts. It was said that these powerful meta beasts had their own talents changed because their ancestors swallowed the blood of the two transcending heaven realm meta beasts. They broke through in one fell swoop and had their current strength. No one knew how many ancient meta beasts there were. They only knew that no matter how strong a human cultivator was, there was only death in the end. The Qilin warship slowly sailed into the vicinity of Tsangcheong Mountain. Inside, the Qilin warship's size became even smaller. The boundless aura around it was even purer than Mang Huang Mountain's aura. A tyrannical power pervaded the air. Even a casual gust of wind that swept over gave off a powerful feeling. The Qilin warship seemed to be shaking under the airflow here. From time to time, a terrifying roar came from the sea of trees, like a tiger roaring in the forest. Lu Yong looked at Tsangcheong Mountain under his feet and even felt his legs tremble. Tsangcheong Mountain was the place that people who studied meta beasts wanted to come to the most. But the more they understood meta beasts, the more they didn't dare to approach Tsangcheong Mountain. This time, they were able to come here because Li Zongjio and the others led the way. Otherwise, Lu Yong wouldn't have come to such a place. Just the aura from the surroundings was enough to make Lu Yong tremble. But fortunately, there were two primitive emperor-level meta beasts on their flying ship. Previously, they saw some flying meta beasts that seemed to want to approach here. At least, they came with the intention of scouting. But when they got closer, they felt that there were two primitive emperor-level meta beasts on the flying ship escorting them. Immediately, these flying meta beasts turned around and flew in another direction without hesitation. But the bottom of the ship held the heavenly hell python. After letting it out to have a big meal, it chose to lie down at the bottom of the ship to cultivate. The meta beasts cultivated by either eating or sleeping, constantly absorbing essence. Other than that, there weren't many other cultivation methods. But at the same time, elixir pills were also available. Li Zongjio had to bear the burden of these meta beasts' consumption after capturing them. Therefore, Li Zongjio had to refine some high-level elixir pills to feed these meta beasts during this period. In addition to speeding up the improvement of their strength, he could also cultivate the compatibility between these meta beasts and himself. If the compatibility was high, sometimes he wouldn't even need to use his mind power to give instructions, just like the Howling Moon Wolf King. However, this kid seemed to have been abducted. When Li Zongjio found him, he would definitely break his legs. Roar! Suddenly, a sound wave whizzed towards the Qilin warship. It was taking the initiative to provoke the Qilin battleship. Boom! The Qilin battleship shook violently. It's the Heavenly Blaze Lion. Lu Yong couldn't help but feel nervous when he heard the sound. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel excited. This was because the Heavenly Blaze Lion was equivalent to a divine beast in the meta-beast realm. It was powerful, majestic, and supreme. Therefore, the Heavenly Blaze Lion had never allowed anyone to fly over its head. Chapter 881. If Li Zongjio remembered correctly, the Heavenly Lion King art that he had given to his father to cultivate was the Heavenly Lion King art. He did not expect to meet a Heavenly Lion here. Therefore, Li Zongjio could not miss this opportunity. Li Zongjio could feel the anger of the Heavenly Lion from this terrifying roar. Boom! A flame wave suddenly came from below and became hot. A fireball the size of a house hit the Qilin battleship with a loud boom. The Qilin battleship's defensive shield was triggered. Then, the terrifying power spread throughout the entire battleship, surrounding it with flames. This defensive shield won't last long. Li Zongjio said. The heavenly hell python, who was sleeping at the bottom of the cabin, also felt the surrounding heat and woke up immediately. Boom! The Qilin battleship's defensive shield was burned through. Then, there was a sudden explosion on the battleship. Li Yun immediately landed the Qilin battleship. The Sky Blaze Lion King was not to be trifled with. Just by passing by, he had been targeted. It was bombarded by the Qilin battleship. Then, the Qilin battleship slowly landed. But just as it was about to land, the Qilin battleship exploded with a loud boom. Then, a powerful flame bomb swept over and blew the Qilin battleship up. The heavenly hell python's body wrapped everyone up. The surrounding flames were not enough to break through the heavenly hell python's defense. You guys be careful. Li Zongjio just reminded them. Then, he felt an extremely powerful force rushing out from the forest at an extremely fast speed. Boom! The huge figure that rushed out bit the heavenly Yama python's neck and dragged the heavenly Yama python's body away. As it bit the heavenly Yama python, it rushed out with the heavenly Yama python's huge body. Boom! After falling to the ground, the heavenly hell python was enraged. I am a primitive emperor-level meta beast. Do you think you can bite me to death? Immediately, the heavenly hell python's body coiled around the heavenly hell lion's body. But the heavenly hell lion's strength was too strong. In an instant, its claws slapped the heavenly hell python's head to the ground. Its other hind claws left a long gash on the heavenly hell python's body. Roar! Suddenly, the heavenly hell python's body was engulfed in flames from the heavenly hell lion's mouth. With such a ferocious and suicidal fighting style, it was clear that the Sky Hell Emperor Python was no match for the Sky Blaze Lion. But, the heavenly hell pythons to protect its own life. Immediately, a golden light was released from the heavenly hell python's body. The heavenly hell python's king became a golden hell python king heavenly golden lion. Knocked the heavenly hell python's body. Exclamation point. It finally broke free from the Sky Blaze Emperor Lion's control. However, in just a few moments, a few terrifying wounds appeared on the Sky Blaze Emperor Python's body. Li Zongjio and King of Fire also walked out. Beside him were the two black-winged blood shadow condors. Li Zongjio tossed an elixir to the heavenly hell python. Although it was only a 5th-grade elixir, it was enough to help the heavenly hell python recover faster. Seeing so many enemies appear on the opposite side, Zhang Xian was shocked. The majestic gaze of the Sky Blaze Royal Lion froze. At the same time, the luxuriant mane on its body trembled and fluttered with the wind. He could feel the terrifying power surging out. There was only extreme disdain in the Sky Blaze Lion's eyes. The only person who posed a threat was the skinny girl. Other than that, the rest of the people were nothing in its eyes. It's really quite stressful. Li Zongjio rubbed his nose. When he faced the Sky Blaze Royal Lion, he could clearly feel the pressure. However, Li Zongjio was a person who challenged the 4 Dragon Tribe sovereigns in his previous life. This bit of power was quickly swept away by Li Zongjio. Instead, the stronger you were, the more Li Zongjio wanted to subdue you. This was Li Zongjio's goal, to find a powerful meta beast. The Desolate Heaven essence appeared in his hand. Li Zongjio signaled the 2 black-winged blood shadow condors to attack. According to the original intention of the 2 black-winged blood shadow condors, they would definitely not provoke the big guy in front of them. However, Li Zongjio had already given the order. The black-winged blood shadow condors could only bite the bullet. As the 2 black-winged blood shadow condors crossed each other, their bodies abruptly charged into the air. The instant they spread their wings, a terrifying power was released. The surrounding light immediately dimmed. It was as if the light in this area was rapidly dimming. It became the state of night. The Sky Blaze Royal Python was naturally unconvinced. It immediately hid in the dark, ready to launch a sneak attack. Boom! On the Sky Blaze Royal Lion's body, a terrifying flame burned between its 4 limbs. As the flame flowed, its entire body was engulfed by the flame. The surrounding light that was devoured immediately appeared. It was as if it was illuminated. Li Zongjio directly attacked from the front. The Desolate Heaven essence in his hand smashed onto the ground from 50 meters away. Boom, boom, boom. The ground instantly cracked into two halves. The terrifying power rushed towards the Sky Blaze Royal Lion's body and immediately reached the front of the Sky Blaze Royal Lion. However, the Sky Blaze Royal Lion slapped forward with its claws. The power of the desolate heaven essence was smashed into the ground. So strong. When Li Zongjio saw the Sky Blaze Royal Lion, he knew that it was indeed the king of the forest. It was enough to see that the Sky Blaze Royal Lion did not panic in the face of so many enemies. Furthermore, it seemed as if everything was under its control. Suddenly, the Black-winged Blood Shadow Condor rushed out. Its sharp claws viciously scratched the Sky Blaze Royal Lion's body. However, it only scratched the surface of the Sky Blaze Royal Lion's body. At the same time, the claws seemed to have dipped into magma. The entire claw was burned. Fortunately, the Black-winged Blood Shadow Condor's body was of the cold attribute. It forced the flames on the claws down. The Sky Blaze Royal Lion's body suddenly leaped up and grabbed towards the sky. It ambushed the Black-winged Blood Shadow Condor from midair. Boom! After crashing onto the ground, the two behemoths started fighting again. However, this time, it was obvious that the Sky Blaze Royal Lion was on top, pinning the Black-winged Blood Shadow Condor below. The Sky Blaze Royal Lion was about to bite off the Black-winged Blood Shadow Condor's neck. The Sky Blaze Royal Python, which was hiding in the dark, rushed out. It bit the Sky Blaze Royal Lion's leg. Roar! The Sky Blaze Royal Lion could not help but roar. Right now, the three beasts were fighting. However, after fighting for a while, although the Sky Blaze Royal Lion's body was covered in wounds, it successfully stepped on two meta beasts. It exuded the majesty of a peak emperor. The King of Fire walked towards the Sky Blaze Royal Lion. The Sky Blaze Royal Lion looked at the King of Fire in front of it. Its eyes were extremely solemn. In the eyes of the Sky Blaze Royal Lion, everyone was just a gust of energy. However, the energy in the Fire Ghost's body was extremely strong. It was extremely dazzling. The Sky Blaze Royal Lion could not help but take it seriously. Let me do it. Li Zongjio walked in front of the King of Fire. He stared at the Sky Blaze Royal Lion in front of him. The King of Fire was stunned for a while. Then he retracted his aura. He also wanted to see what Li Zongjio was capable of. This was an emperor amongst the primitive emperor-level meta-beasts. If he could not subdue it with his own strength, it would be difficult to subdue the Sky Blaze Royal Lion. When the Sky Blaze Royal Lion saw Li Zongjio walking towards it, its eyes were filled with disdain and contempt again. Even a weak human like Li Zongjio could be easily slapped into two with a single swipe of its claws. However, in the next moment, the Sky Blaze Royal Lion's eyes suddenly revealed a tinge of shock. Chapter 882. From the weak human in front of him, he could clearly feel an extremely powerful force. At the same time, a terrifying pressure descended upon them. It landed directly on its body. It wasn't just a pressure. The Sky Blaze Lion immediately felt the power that exploded from Li Zongjio's body. One force. Two forces. Three forces. The Sky Blaze Lion's eyes were immediately filled with shock. At this moment, Li Zongjio was truly going all out. The three Dragon Soul origin spirits exploded at the same time. With such a terrifying force gathered, even the Sky Blaze Lion dared not ignore it. If you're not convinced, I can only beat you until you are. Li Zongjio held the desolate heaven essence in his hand. His left hand was also forming a series of seals. At this moment, a terrifying power gathered around his body. Mountain-toppling golden seal. With one move, golden light shone brightly. A golden palm print fell towards the Sky Blaze Lion. The Sky Blaze Lion's eyes were filled with shock. This force was indeed powerful. If it continued to stay where it was, it would be hit. But if it dodged, wouldn't that mean that it, the Sky Blaze Lion, was afraid of this lowly human in front of it? Hence, the Sky Blaze Lion chose to take it head-on. Roar! Its dignity as a beast emperor was not to be challenged. The Sky Blaze Lion's body immediately exploded with a terrifying flame and rushed towards the force in front of it. As the two forces collided, the earth shook and the mountains shook. It was as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. In terms of strength, Li Zongjio was naturally inferior to the Sky Blaze Lion. However, the 3 dragon souls had descended. The Blood Dragon Soul was the main attack. The Golden Dragon Soul was the main defense. The White Dragon Soul was also carrying out a spiritual attack. In such a situation, its strength was also rather terrifying. The 3 dragon souls cooperated with each other. At the same time, their strength stacked together and caught the Sky Blaze Lion off guard. Now, the White Dragon Soul and the Golden Dragon Soul had already broken through to the Origin Emperor realm. The power of the Blood Dragon Soul was constantly increasing, and with the support of the power of the Blood Soul Hell. Because it was the power of the Dragon Tribe, it was born with a spiritual pressure, which was enough to make the Sky Blaze Lion Royal feel that it was difficult to walk. But he was unwilling. He was also the king of this forest. Why should he lower his head to others? When Li Zongjio's desolate heaven essence, which was imbued with the power of the obsidian fire, struck the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign's body, the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign finally understood that the terrifying power of the youth in front of it was something the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign could not withstand. Boom! Boom! The Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign's resistance clearly weakened. On the other hand, Li Zongjio's attacks were unusually rhythmic. He was full of battle experience, and with the hidden dragon technique, Li Zongjio's body was extremely ethereal. As he moved, the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign had no way of hitting Li Zongjio. Of course, the power released by the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign had gradually forced Li Zongjio to retreat. Furthermore, the flames that scattered in all directions caused Li Zongjio's body to be covered in injuries. Under the entanglement of the 3 dragon souls' dragon claws, the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign was in front of him. Even the surrounding meta beasts did not participate in this battle. They only watched from the side. The 2 of them fought for nearly an hour. The surrounding vegetation and rocks were all smashed to smithereens. Boom! With the final strike, Li Zongjio smashed the desolate heaven essence on the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign's head. It had already knocked the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign to the ground. The Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign was already covered in injuries. The final strike had also exhausted the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign's strength. Its huge body fell to the ground, panting. It's not over yet. Li Zongjio looked at the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign. Although he had already used his combat power to knock the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign down, he had yet to sign a contract with it. Li Zongjio immediately landed in front of the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign. In the next second, the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign's mental strength was absorbed into Li Zongjio's mental strength. Boom! The Sky Blaze Lion hadn't expected that it would be pulled into a strange place right after being beaten up. The White Dragon Soul naturally appeared in this spiritual hell. With the power of the White Dragon Soul, it was enough to be the main soul in this spiritual hell. In the eyes of the others, Li Zongjio had meditated in front of the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign for about an hour. He stood up again. During this process, the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign and the Black-Wind Blood Shadow Condor did not move. They sat in their original positions. They were also guarding with a defensive posture. After an hour, Li Zongjio stood up. The Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign also stood up. Then, under the horrified gazes of Li Yun and the others, Li Zongjio turned his body around and faced the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign with his back. In the eyes of the meta beast, this was a piece of meat that had been delivered to its door. It could easily devour you in one bite. Be careful! Li Yun could not help but exclaim. How could Li Zongjio do such a careless thing? The Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign was no joke. If it bit down, it would directly bite off your head. However, the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign only stood up and shook its fur. On its majestic face, it opened its mouth and revealed its teeth. The King of Fire's slender eyebrows twitched slightly as he looked at the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign. However, the Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign quickly followed Li Zongjio and walked out. It actually followed behind Li Zongjio so obediently. At this moment, no one dared to believe it. Their eyes were wide open. Lu Yong and Su Baichuan were already completely stunned. The huge Sky Blaze Lion Sovereign was like a tamed meta beast as it followed behind Li Zongjio. The Skyblaze Lion Sovereign also moved its body and moved in front of the Skyblaze Lion Sovereign. Roar! The Skyblaze Lion Sovereign roared at the Skyblaze Lion Sovereign, and the Skyblaze Lion Sovereign immediately moved to the side. Obviously, in front of the Skyblaze Lion Sovereign, even though it had submitted to Li Zongjio, it still had its own dignity and status. How dare a mere snake hang around in front of it? It really did not know what was good for it. Even though it had been tamed, it was still in the position of the boss. The two black-winged blood shadow condors also appeared at the side. In just a short period of 3 days, he had already tamed 4 meta-emperor-level meta-beasts. In the eyes of others, this was simply a miracle. As for Lu Yong and Su Baichuan, they had witnessed this scene with their own eyes. After experiencing such a strange experience in the past 3 days, one person could actually tame 4 meta-beasts. No one dared to believe that such a thing could happen. Oh my god, you actually defeated this big guy. When Li Yun saw the Skyblaze Lion Sovereign, her eyes were filled with shock. She was also filled with affection and wanted to go up and touch the majestic and domineering Skyblaze Lion Sovereign. However, the Skyblaze Lion Sovereign also glared at Li Yun, scaring Li Yun so much that she retracted her hand. However, after being glared at by Li Zongjio, the Skyblaze Lion Sovereign also lowered its head. Li Yun then went up to touch it in surprise. The Skyblaze Lion Sovereign had never thought that it, one of the overlords of Tsangqiong Mountain, would actually be touched by such an ordinary human girl. If the other meta-beasts in Tsangqiong Mountain found out about this Skyblaze Lion Sovereign would probably be too ashamed to return. Let's go back. Li Zongjio was satisfied. But our Qilin warship has been destroyed. How can we go back now? Li Yun couldn't help but ask. The Qilin warship was directly destroyed by the Skyblaze Lion Sovereign. Now that there were so many people in addition to these huge meta-beasts, if they were to bring them back, wouldn't it cause a huge commotion in Holy Flame Imperial City? If it was especially eye-catching, there might be unexpected trouble. That's a problem. Li Zongjio was also worried. Moreover, the return distance was also far. If they were to fly back directly, who knew how much time it would take? Just as the few of them were worried, suddenly, they heard a roar coming from the sky above their heads. They must be nearby. Such an intense battle must be between 2 meta-beasts. We just have to find them. Now that it has calmed down, both sides must have suffered great losses. A conversation was heard. Then, with a swoosh, a few figures fell down. Boom! Boom! When the 5 of them fell down from the flying boat, they immediately saw the huge formation in front of them. And Li Zongjio and the others just happened to see the 5 of them fall down. Then, they looked at the flying boat above them. It's the jungle hunting group, Lu Yong said lightly. Then, there was a sense of pity in his eyes. Chapter 883. The jungle hunting group was quite powerful. They were rather powerful themselves. They roamed around the forest specifically in order to find some precious meta-beasts. Then, they would hunt and obtain the precious meta-beasts' body parts. Furthermore, the flying boats prepared by these forest hunting groups were all extremely large in size. When the 5 of them landed, they saw the Skyblaze Lion first. Fuck, Skyblaze Lion. Fuck Skyblaze Python. Fuck, 2 black-winged blood shadow condors. This is a gathering of meta-emperors and meta-beasts. Fuck, there are still people here. When they saw Li Zongjio and the rest, they never thought that there would be so many people here. What was going on? Could these people be meta-beasts in disguise? Otherwise, how could they get along so well with the meta-beasts and stay together without fighting? It was really strange. You're the captain, right? I'm here to discuss something with you. Li Zongjio said to a middle-aged man with a full beard. The middle-aged man's heart skipped a beat. This meta-beast can even talk. After a while, Li Zongjio and the rest boarded the spaceship. The spaceship was much bigger than the Qilin battleship. Therefore, the 4 meta-emperor meta-beasts were arranged to board the spaceship without any problems. As for the jungle hunting group, they also received Li Zongjio and the rest warmly. Of course, they had to be warm. Otherwise, they might just throw them off the spaceship. Fortunately, Li Zongjio and the rest were very reasonable. The members of the jungle hunting group didn't dare to imagine that someone would come to such a place to tame a meta beast. Moreover, it was the Sky Blaze lion. They had only detected the commotion because it had lasted for such a long time. Perhaps it was an evenly matched opponent. As long as they rushed out at this time and casually picked up some benefits, it would be enough for the jungle hunting group to live happily for a long time. However, this time, they saw how powerful these people were. They actually caught the meta beasts alive. They didn't dare to make any guesses about the background of these people. They only knew that they couldn't afford to offend these people. Therefore, he only needed to be obedient. The moment he heard that these people were heading to the Sacred Flame Royal City, he knew that they were not simple people. We need to change a part of our flying boat. We'll land in Black Rock City for about an hour. The leader of the jungle hunters said. At the same time, he also looked at Li Zongjio. Although Li Zongjio was young, he was the leader of these people. If anything happened, they just needed to communicate with Li Zongjio. All right. Li Zongjio nodded. There were a total of 6 people in this jungle hunting group. One of them was the pilot who was in charge of bringing up the rear. After all, this flying boat couldn't fly around on its own. Li Yun was also interested. She hid in the pilot's cabin and learned from him. It was almost dusk. Li Zongjio and the rest also wandered around Black Rock City. Of course, those meta beasts were also placed on the flying boat. These people from the jungle hunting group didn't dare to say that they could escape with the 4 primitive emperor-level meta beasts. They could tear the flying boat apart with just a thought. Li Zongjio came to the relay station and wrote a letter to Zheng Haoran from Cerulean Wave Giant City to bring some people and parts to the Sacred Flame Royal City. Li Yun's Qilin battleship was burned down. Of course, most of the things were still there. It just needed to be repaired before it could be used again. Otherwise, Li Zongjio would feel embarrassed looking at Li Yun's sullen face. Outside the Sacred Flame Royal City, in front of a mountain range, the Gu family and the Xianyuan sect had already planned it out. Not only did they bring Kuan Erashur here, they also sent many people to search for Li Zongjio's whereabouts. It would be best if they could catch Li Zongjio off guard and attack him. Otherwise, if Li Zongjio summoned enough friends, it would be difficult to deal with him. This kid is from Kuan Castle. Let's beat him up first. Gu Chuan ordered. At this moment, Kuan Erashur was tied up on a diamond pillar. An elite cloud guard obeyed the order and stepped forward to give Kuan Erashur a good beating. As long as you beg for mercy and cooperate with us to bring Li Zongjio here, I can consider letting you go for the sake of Kuan Castle. Gu Chuan came to Kuan Erashur and said, "Let me go? I'm afraid you guys still don't understand the situation." A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Lan Kuan's mouth. The clothes on his body had been torn apart by his opponent's strength, revealing his tanned and muscular skin. A martial artist must have a good physique. Not only that, everyone should train their body. Only with a good physique would they be able to withstand such a vicious beating. You're quite stubborn. I think the Xianyuan sect wants to kill you. Do you think you can survive until now if I didn't protect you? Gu Chuan looked at Kuan Erashur and said indifferently, "You guys better run away. Once my boss comes, you won't be able to escape." Kuan Erashur spat out a mouthful of blood as he looked at Gu Chuan and said in disdain. He didn't care about Gu Chuan's threat at all. So what if he died? What was there to be afraid of? However, it was impossible for him to betray his brothers. Stubborn. Let's continue. Gu Chuan said as an elite cloud guard punched him again. Bang, bang, bang. He had suffered quite a bit. Just when Gu Chuan and the others were waiting in the formation, Gu Yu's figure flew over. Found them. Li Zongjio and the others appeared in Black Rock City an hour ago. They rode on a jungle hunting group's airship and are heading here. When Gu Yu received the news, he was abnormally excited. He had finally found the person he was looking for. Very good. Lock onto their airship. Once they appear, shoot them down. Gu Chuan said in a deep voice. Not far away, there were a few experts from the Xianyuan sect. There was also the sect master, Gong Wuliang. Gong Wuliang's goal was very simple. He wanted to take Li Zongjio's life. It was that simple. He didn't want to care about anything else. Previously, he had asked the Ardent Earth sect for help. However, who knew that the inhumane Li Zongjio would kill everyone from the Ardent Earth sect? This made Gong Wuliang very angry. At the same time, he was furious. The Ardent Earth sect didn't even have the strength to take care of one person. It was simply embarrassing. This time, Gong Wuliang had personally taken action. He wanted to kill Li Zongjio outside the Sacred Flame Royal City. Previously, he had made an agreement with the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion to not take action within the city. However, now that they were outside the city, he wanted to see where Li Zongjio could run to. If he didn't kill Li Zongjio, it would be a waste for them to come all the way here. On the airship, the bearded man was the captain of the jungle hunting group. His name was Jiang Lei. Seeing that the Sacred Flame Royal City was close at hand, he finally heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Fortunately, he was about to reach his destination. Moreover, he was glad that nothing had happened along the way. If anything had happened, he would have been in big trouble. Therefore, Jiang Lei's heart was much more relaxed. Brother Li, the Sacred Flame Royal City is in front of us. According to the rules, we are not allowed to enter the city. We will drop you off at the junction outside the city. Jiang Lei said, "All right, thank you." Li Zongjio nodded. At the same time, he took out a porcelain bottle from his storage ring. Inside the bottle were the 10 Tier 5 elixir pills. Take these as your travel expenses. After speaking, he threw the bottle in his hand to Jiang Lei. Jiang Lei caught the bottle and waited. He was afraid that there were elixir pills inside. Just as he was about to say that there was no need to be so polite, as brothers were always helping each other out, he quickly caught a whiff of the pill fragrance coming from the bottle. Jiang Lei's face immediately changed. This was because the pill fragrance reminded Jiang Lei that the bottle contained Tier 5 elixir pills. How can I accept this? I can't accept it. Although Jiang Lei said that he didn't want it, his actions were very honest. He directly put the bottle into his storage ring. Even the subordinates at the side turned their heads, no longer looking at the spineless Jiang Lei. Careful, there's a cannon. Suddenly, a cry of alarm came from the broadcast in the cabin. The airship that had just been replaced with new parts was immediately hit by an energy cannon with a boom. The opponent's power directly broke through the airship's protective barrier. One must know that they had just replaced the parts of the protective barrier. However, the enemy's energy cannon shot out and directly broke through the energy shield. Chapter 884. Immediately, the airship fell from the sky with a loud bang. However, Li Zongjio and the others reacted quickly. King of Fire naturally didn't need to worry. Li Zongjio grabbed Li Yun, who was in the cockpit. Lu Yong summoned the Ice Bear Wolf, which carried him down from the sky. Su Baichuan also had his own methods. The jungle hunters also used their own methods and landed on the ground. Li Zongjio and the others landed one after another. Who dares to destroy my airship? Jiang Lei roared out in rage. All of his belongings were instantly turned into a ball of flames in the distance. The airship had completely crashed. The other party's strength was very strong. Obviously, they came prepared. Are you okay? Li Zongjio also put Li Yun on the ground. Flying in the sky, one must be mentally prepared to be shot down at any time. I'm fine. Li Yun shook her head and said. Then Li Zongjio glanced at King of Fire, who landed beside him. In front. The Fire Wraith King raised his sharp chin, indicating that the other party was right in front. From the front, several figures landed and surrounded Li Zongjio and the others. Are you here to seek revenge or to cause trouble? Jiang Lei's airship was destroyed, so naturally he was extremely unhappy. He directly roared at the 7 figures in front of him. No matter who these people were, they naturally had to pay the price for destroying his airship. Moreover, the people behind him were already prepared to fight at any time. No matter who you are, first compensate for my airship. Gu Chuan walked out with his men, and when he saw Li Zongjio, a glint flashed across his eyes. Although the other side had more people, and Gu Chuan only had 7 men, they did not lose out in terms of aura. Li Zongjio, you're finally here. Gu Chuan said to Li Zongjio. Who are you? Li Zongjio looked at Furukawa, wondering where these people came from. They actually dared to attack them in such a situation. If these people were here to seek revenge, it was really not the right time to do so. Didn't you want our Gu clan to apologize? We're here now. Gu Chuan sneered. Li Zongjio finally understood that these people in front of him were actually from the Gu clan. Only the two people in front of him seemed to have reached the third stage of the primitive emperor realm. No wonder they dared to be so arrogant, directly intercepting Li Zongjio's flying boat midway, and even knowing their routes so clearly. They must have made ample preparations. Apologized to him. They directly blasted the other party's flying boat down, and they still had the nerve to say that it was an apology. Jiang Lei finally understood that they were here to seek revenge from Li Zongjio, but they accidentally destroyed their boat. However, Jiang Lei waved his hand and let his brothers keep their weapons first. Jiang Lei couldn't be clearer about the current situation. With the current strength of Li Zongjio's side, there was no need to worry. The appearance of the 4 primitive Emperor Realm meta beasts was enough to make these people piss their pants. These people in front of them weren't even enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of those meta beasts. However, these people in front of them didn't seem to understand the situation. Looking at the arrogant look of these people, Jiang Lei and the others were waiting to watch a good show. With a glance, Gu Chuan could tell that these people weren't in the same group as Li Zongjio's group. Those who have nothing to do with this matter, scram. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave in a while. Gu Chuan said indifferently, take this as your compensation for the flying boat. Scram. Then, Gu Chuan threw out a bag of purple gold coins. Using such a method to clear the area was, in fact, an act of humiliation. Keep your money and buy a coffin. Jiang Lei kicked the bag of coins back. Death was at hand, and you still don't know what's good for you. Gu Chuan's eyes suddenly turned cold when he saw that Jiang Lei, an idler in the underworld, actually dared to make an enemy out of him. Gu Chuan could only deal with all of them at the same time. He originally wanted to control the scene, and at least not cause any trouble. But now, it seemed that he had no choice but to take action and eliminate all of them. Cut the crap. Since you are here to apologize, quickly kneel down. And those who are hiding in the back, quickly come out. Are all of you rats hiding in the back? Li Zongjio glanced at the mountain rock not far away. The moment these words were spoken, several figures rustled out from behind the mountain rock. Gong Wuliang had long wanted to eliminate Li Zongjio. However, he also wanted to see the situation at the scene. At least, he had to wait for the people of Gu family to eliminate some of Li Zongjio's followers. After the loss of Mystic Yuan sect, Gong Wuliang had to ensure the safety of Mystic Yuan sect. Therefore, it was best to avoid unnecessary sacrifices. It seemed that the people of Gu family also wanted Li Zongjio's life. At least, he wanted to let the people of Gu family exhaust some of Li Zongjio's strength first. After all, Mystic Yuan sect had suffered a lot at the hands of Li Zongjio before. But now, after hearing Li Zongjio's instigation and provocation, he couldn't help but come out. Li Zongjio, if you can leave safely today, I, Gong Wuliang, will send my head to your residence. Gong Wuliang came out with 3 primitive Emperor Realm elders. There were as many as 6 primitive Emperor Realm experts on the other side. Such a lineup was more than enough to attack a city. Oh, what use do I have for your head? Since you are all prepared to die, then come on. Li Zongjio snapped his fingers. From the wreckage of the airship, 3 huge figures immediately flew out. He brought with him a terrifying aura as he descended, and when he released his aura, the Sky Blaze Lion let out a furious roar that seemed to penetrate the mountains and rivers. The roar seemed to have caused the ground to tremble. Gong Wuliang and the others sensed the meta beasts rushing over and their faces changed instantly. How is this possible? These meta beasts? Although he couldn't believe that these meta beasts were obeying Li Zongjio's orders, there shouldn't be any traces of wild primitive emperor-level meta beasts within 1,000 miles. Looking at the place where the meta beasts rushed out, it was where the airship was previously. Obviously, these meta beasts had been staying on the airship since the beginning. Evil creature! Gu Chuan roared. Then, he attacked together with Gu Hai, rushing towards the Sky Blaze Lion that was the most threatening. Huge amounts of origin energy intertwined and collided in the air, giving off a shattering sound. The Sky Blaze Lion landed with a ferocious momentum and slapped Gu Chuan's body with its claw, sending Gu Chuan flying. Bang! The defensive inner armor on Gu Chuan's body was instantly shattered, and a sharp claw mark appeared on his chest. Gu Chuan spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't expect this lion to be so strong. Gu Hai was in an even worse state. He was pressed to the ground by the Sky Blaze Lion's claw. The other claw slammed down and smashed Gu Hai's head into pieces. His brain juice splattered all over the ground. Such a shocking scene made Gong Wuliang and the others realize that it wasn't a good time to fight with Li Zongjio. The power he brought was too strong. This Sky Blaze Lion was at least a 6th-stage primitive emperor. Who would dare to charge forward? Retreat! Gong Wuliang immediately took the lead and led the 3 primitive emperor elders behind him, preparing to fly into the distance. Suddenly, a huge black silhouette rushed out from the darkness. Sky Blaze Python! The huge Sky Blaze Python was actually hiding in the darkness and only launched a sneak attack at this moment. One of the Mystic Yuan sect's elders was swallowed by the Sky Blaze Python. The other elder couldn't escape in time. He was entangled by the Sky Blaze Python. Sect Master, save me! The elder who was taken away hurriedly shouted. In the next moment, the sound of the elder's body being crushed into pieces could be clearly heard even from a distance of more than 10 meters. Damn it! When Gong Wuliang came out, he had a bad premonition. Now it came true. Sect Master, leave quickly. That elder prepared to escort Gong Wuliang away. But suddenly, a huge figure descended from the sky and clawed the elder's head. Bang! The black-winged blood shadow condor's figure appeared and disappeared in an instant. A primitive emperor-level meta-beast was already very difficult to deal with. But now 4 of them rushed out at once. Who could withstand it? As for the 5 elite cloud guards, they were already torn to pieces by the other black-winged blood shadow condor. This was why ordinary people were warned not to show off. If you didn't know how strong the opponent was and dared to show off, you would end up in a miserable state. Except for the heavily injured Gu Chuan and Gong Wuliang, everyone was wiped out. Chapter 885. Gong Wuliang was still alive. However, he was under more pressure than anyone else. The surrounding meta-beasts were all eyeing him covetously. Gong Wuliang did not dare to move at all. The Sky Blaze Lion had already walked in front of Gong Wuliang. Its huge figure stood in front of Gong Wuliang. Gong Wuliang was the sect master of the Xinyuan sect. What kind of situation had he not seen before? However, he had never stood face to face with a 6th-grade meta-emperor realm meta-beast. There was a Sky Blaze Lion behind it, staring at Gong Wuliang. It would spit out its scarlet tongue from time to time. Gong Wuliang had never thought that such a situation would occur. Li Zongjio, what do you want? Kill me. The people of the Xinyuan sect will definitely kill everyone in the Li family. The consequences of killing the sect master are not that easy to bear. Gong Wuliang still wanted to use such words to scare Li Zongjio. He did not understand the situation at all. Is that so? Fine. After I destroy your Xinyuan sect, you can continue to be the sect master in the underworld. Li Zongjio snapped his fingers. The Sky Blaze Lion opened its mouth and spat out a flame towards Gong Wuliang. Gong Wuliang's body was immediately burned to ashes by the raging flames. Li Zongjio, if you dare come over, I will kill him. Gu Chuan's voice came. When Li Zongjio looked over, he realized that Gu Chuan was holding Kuan Erasure hostage. Kuan Erasure was beaten up just now and his body was covered with injuries. However, at least he was still alive. When he saw Li Zongjio, he grinned and nodded at Li Zongjio. Boss, why are you here? Why are you captured? Li Zongjio looked at Kuan Erasure and frowned. Then he said to Gu Chuan. All right, let him go and I'll let you go. You only have one chance. Think carefully. When Gu Chuan heard Li Zongjio's words, his expression kept changing. He didn't know if Li Zongjio was telling the truth or not. But at this moment he didn't have any other choice. Looking at Li Zongjio's appearance, he didn't seem to be a person who would keep his word. But at least, this Li Zongjio was someone who valued friendship a lot. It was written clearly in the newspaper. Li Zongjio, you won't have a good ending if you make an enemy of the Gu clan. After saying that, Gu Chuan tossed Kuan Erasure to Li Zongjio. Kill him. Just as Kuan Erasure flew out of Gu Chuan's hand, Li Zongjio directly ordered. Immediately, the 4 primordial beasts moved. Before Gu Chuan could turn around and escape, he realized that Li Zongjio didn't keep his word. He actually went back on his word in front of so many people. Li Zongjio, you don't keep your word. Gu Chuan roared and was swallowed by the army of primordial beasts. As for Kuan Erasure, he was caught by Li Zongjio. Kuan Erasure was in so much pain that he grimaced. Just the bones in his body were broken. Therefore, if one didn't have the strength to back up their words, they were all empty words. Take their storage rings. Lu Yong and Su Baichuan immediately went to take action. What did they see just now? The sect master of the Mystic Yuan sect. The 2 primordial emperor elders of the Gu clan. And so many experts. They died so easily in front of them. These were all big shots that were rarely seen. Moreover, from the looks of these people, it seemed that they had been lying in ambush here for quite some time. Who would have thought that when they appeared and intercepted Li Zongjio, they would end up in such a miserable state? This was probably something that they had never imagined even in their wildest dreams. Jiang Lei and the others who were watching the battle from the side were also dumbfounded. This was because these people had announced their names at the entrance of the cave. At this moment, they realized that these people who were courting death actually had such a background. Regardless, Jiang Lei knew that his group was not on the same side as Li Zongjio. This was just a coincidence. What Li Zongjio and the others had encountered was not something that Jiang Lei and the others could come into contact with. At most, they would wander around the forest and follow some primordial beasts to get some benefits based on their experience. Sometimes, primordial beasts would fight for territory and kill each other. However, they would not eat each other's corpses. Instead, they would keep the corpses as evidence to show off. At such times, they had to act quickly and strike quickly. This storage ring will be the compensation for the damage to your airship. Li Zongjio threw out a storage ring. It was Gu Chuan's storage ring. A person of such a level would naturally have many precious treasures in his storage ring. The extremely valuable items would definitely be worth the loss of the airship. However, Li Zongjio should at least take a look at the contents of the storage ring. What if there was something that even Li Zongjio was tempted by? However, Li Zongjio did not seem to care about the contents of the storage ring at all. Jiang Lei did not stand on ceremony. After all, they might not have the chance to meet again after this. Furthermore, this was indeed an opportunity to make a fortune. Although the airship was damaged, Jiang Lei had obtained an extremely rare opportunity to become rich. Hence, Jiang Lei cherished it very much. Thank you very much. Let's part ways here. Jiang Lei and the others cupped their hands and said, since the airship was destroyed, they could only find an opportunity to build their own airship. After all, they had to continue their own business. There were still so many things to do and so many people to feed. Jiang Lei and the others left on their own and did not interact much with Li Zongjio and the others. However, Jiang Lei and the others were really shocked by what had happened here today. There's a person called Li Zongjio in the Sacred Flame Royal City. We must not provoke him. This was the biggest realization that Jiang Lei and the others had in mind. Several figures flew over from afar. Boom! Boom! Nangong Wuji was at the front. When he saw so many meta-beasts below, he was also shocked. While he was on guard, he saw Li Zongjio and the others standing among the meta-beasts below. Aren't they afraid? Where did these meta-beasts come from? Logically speaking, there should not be such powerful meta-beasts around the Sacred Flame Royal City. These meta-beasts were also intelligent. If they were to wander around in the center of human rights, they would be a threat to them. Someone could come and kill them at any time. These meta-beasts were all experts and extremely ferocious fellows. Li Zongjio. Nangong Wuji landed on the ground. Nangong Wuji was accompanied by many experts. Hong Shisan, Zhou Jing, and 2 other experts in the Origin Emperor realm should have been invited by Nangong Wuji. Why you guys here? Li Zongjio looked at Nangong Wuji and the others who had just arrived. There was still some distance between the Sacred Flame Royal City and the Sacred Flame Royal City. He did not expect that they would know what had happened here. It's Miss Xiao Zhao. Thousand Machine Workshop found out that these people were sneaking around outside the city, so they asked us to come and check it out. Later on, the fluctuations here spread to the city, so I brought my friends here. Nangong Wuji said and then introduced 2 members from the Wuji Palace to Li Zongjio. Fan Emperor by Fei Shuang. Soldier Blood Sword Shao Kong. Both of them were experts in the Wuji Palace and had a good relationship with Nangong Wuji. That was why they got involved in this mess. Originally, the 2 of them were slightly arrogant. However, when they saw the 4 meta beasts beside Li Zongjio, they understood the current situation. Li Zongjio alone was able to subdue these meta beasts. Other than that, there was no other explanation. The meta beasts before them all belonged to Li Zongjio. Just this power alone was already extremely terrifying. Those people from the Gu family and the Mystic Yuan sect came to cause trouble, but they were all crippled by me. Li Zongjio said faintly. He said it casually, but the rest of it was like a storm had set off in his heart. This was too exaggerated, wasn't it? They had received news that the sect master of the Mystic Yuan sect had come personally. Could none of them have escaped? Li Zongjio will remember your kindness today. If you have any problems in the future, look for me directly. You will all be friends of the White Deer Manor in the future. Li Zongjio said to the few people, including Zhou Zheng. Although Zhou Zheng was entrusted by the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion, Nangong Wuji didn't care. If you came, you would be Li Zongjio's friend. If you have any problems in the future, Li Zongjio will naturally protect you. Even if you want to ask for elixir pills from Li Zongjio in the future, it wouldn't be a problem. Hearing Li Zongjio's words, the 2 members of the Wuji Palace beamed with joy and thanked him repeatedly. Shrink a little? Li Zongjio said. Then, the meta beasts began to shrink their bodies. These meta beasts would only reveal their true forms when they were in battle mode. Once they revealed their true forms, it would also bring some trouble. At the very least, they would be discovered by the enemy. Everyone was shocked. The group of people walked into the Sacred Flame Royal City. These city guards wouldn't be able to stop any one of them. Chapter 886. When he returned to the White Deer Manor, he discovered that there was an expert sent by Song Jiu. Li Zongjio naturally thanked him. These people who could help were people he could make friends with in the future. At least when facing the Gu family, these people had the guts to stand by Li Zongjio's side. Just this point alone was enough reason for Li Zongjio to protect them. The Li family needed to develop. Therefore, making friends with these people was necessary. After returning to the Li family and handing over the meta beasts to Lu Yong, Li Zongjio also specially sent the King of Fire back. On the other hand, the Fire Wraith King stretched his body lazily, then counted with his fingers. Back then, we agreed that I would pay you 1,000 upper-grade primordial stones each time I helped. Now, you owe me a lot of upper-grade primordial stones. The King of Fire looked at Li Zongjio and said, How much do you want? Li Zongjio was already prepared to be extorted by the King of Fire. It didn't matter how much money it cost. Anyway, the meta beasts had been caught, so there was nothing to be regretful about. At least 3 years. For the next 3 years, I will have to eat and drink with you until I suffer a loss. The King of Fire looked into Li Zongjio's eyes and said. At this moment, even the King of Fire couldn't believe that he actually said such a thing. He didn't want to stay in the Ghost King Palace, but went to Li Zongjio's White Deer Manor. Even the King of Fire didn't know what he was thinking. He just said this subconsciously. At the same time, the King of Fire was very worried that Li Zongjio wouldn't agree. The King of Fire thought that if Li Zongjio didn't agree, he would never see Li Zongjio again today. Okay, I will arrange an independent courtyard for you. After all, I have a lot of courtyards here. When Li Zongjio built this place, he specially left a place empty. In the future, if Li Zongjio invited any powerful guests, they would stay here. The first expert to move in was actually the King of Fire. The King of Fire actually stayed in the White Deer Manor. Of course, he would occasionally return to the Ghost King Palace to handle some matters. Of course, he didn't need to go there every day. After all, the King of Fire had already formed its own independent system. In addition, the King of Fire, there was no one who dared to mess with the King of Fire. When Nangong Wuji first saw the King of Fire, he had some doubts in his heart. Although the King of Fire's attire was different from the rumors, at least he had a feeling that it was the same. After asking Li Zongjio indirectly, Nangong Wuji finally understood how terrifying Li Zongjio's White Deer Manor was. Besides, Kun Arashi's injuries were only superficial. After recovering his Yuan Li, it would be very easy for him to nurse his body back to health. However, the matter of the Gu clan wasn't over yet. The matters in the manor were also handed over to Xiao Zhao to arrange. Outside the manor, Li Zongjio had also found Tai Feihe. He ordered his men to go to the mountain and bring back all the heads and corpses that could still be found, and send them to the Gu clan. When the Gu clan saw the corpses being sent back, they knew that they were in trouble. Some of the elders of the Gu clan also panicked. Only Gu Yu sat in his chair and sighed. Our Gu clan is going to die. Even the Gu clan couldn't get rid of Li Zongjio. How could they hope for any other way? Now that things have come to this, we can only ask for a compromise. Gu Yu let out a long sigh. Although they hadn't taken revenge for the Ancient One, they had to see the situation clearly and see if they could take revenge today. That Li Zongjio was so vicious, and he didn't know where he found so many helpers. Even the elders from the main Gu family were dismembered like this. What? You want our dignified Gu clan to compromise with this brat? How can the Gu clan keep its face in the future? Some of the more conservative elders of the Gu clan immediately slammed the table and stood up. They absolutely couldn't tolerate such behavior. Even if they had to die in battle, they wouldn't let such a thing happen. The Gu clan has been passed down for hundreds of years. How can the reputation of the Gu clan be destroyed just because of Li Zongjio? Since we can't do it ourselves, let's spend all our wealth and hire someone else to do it. Obviously, the decision had been made. No matter what, they had to cripple Li Zongjio. The Gu clan didn't have anyone left, but at least they still had money. A large clan with many years of history was no joke. There might not be many purple yuan and gold coins in the treasury, but there were many valuable things. As long as the price was right, there would be no need to fear that no one would be willing to buy them. Gu Yu looked a little hesitant. He had some connections with some of the assassin organizations on this continent. Those ancient assassin organizations weren't as brazen as the Celestial Rain Pavilion, nor were they willing to expose themselves to the public. Family head, there's no turning back now. Li Zongjio must die. The elders voiced their opinions one after another. If Li Zongjio didn't die, the Gu clan would lose its status. Without status, the elders would be worthless. Everything had happened too quickly, and the elders weren't prepared for it. Gu Yu thought of the Ancient One, who was still lying on his bed and hadn't woken up yet. At this moment, he seemed to have made up his mind. Looking for an assassin? What's the price? Just as Gu Yu was about to make a decision and immediately send someone to handle this matter, suddenly he heard a voice coming from the door. Who are you? Who let you in? Get out. An elder sitting at the side immediately stood up and berated Li Zongjio when he saw him walk in. Guards, throw him out. However, after shouting for a long time, no one came forward. Gu Yu's expression changed when he saw who it was. Li Zongjio. When the elder who had just stood up to berate and expel Li Zongjio heard Gu Yu's words, his face immediately turned ashen. He never thought that the person in front of him was actually Li Zongjio. You're Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio walked forward naturally and gestured for the elder to leave. Then, he moved his chair over and placed it in the middle of the hall. He sat down facing Gu Yu. Tell me, how do you want to settle the scores from these few days? The rest of the elders looked behind them and realized that Li Zongjio did not bring anyone with him. Instead, he came alone. His courage was really big. He actually dared to walk into the Gu clan's headquarters alone. Wasn't he looking down on the Gu clan too much? How do you want to settle it? You've killed so many people from the Gu clan. How do you want to settle it? If you have the guts to come alone today, don't blame us for being rude. Third Elder Gu Mengliang stood up and said. He activated the Yuan power in his body and took a step forward, assuming an attacking posture. Everyone, the enemy has already killed his way to our doorstep. How can we let him continue to be arrogant? Kill him. Gu Mengliang was already prepared to fight with his life on the line. However, the other elders were also shocked at first. However, there were a few who had the same temper as Gu Mengliang and they all released their auras. Seeing that they were about to take action, Gu Yu hurriedly said. Li Zongjio looked like a fool, yet these people were still so reckless. The Li Zongjio before them must have come prepared. Therefore, they definitely couldn't be deceived by Li Zongjio's calm appearance. Patriarch, Gu Mengliang looked at Gu Yu. His life and death enemy was right in front of him. Inviting the other party to his doorstep was clearly a provocation. Could it be that he was here to drink tea? Li Zongjio, what do you want? Gu Yu said in a deep voice. At the same time, he gestured for the others to calm down. I'm here to give you a chance. Forget about apologizing. Just directly compensate. Hand over all the things that your Gu clan has collected over the years. Then I'll consider it as forgiving. Otherwise, I'll kill everyone in your Gu clan. Not a single one will be left alive. Chapter 887. Li Zongjio's attitude was indeed a little too arrogant. The Gu family was not some third-rate small family. Their current status was obtained through the use of real swords and spears. How many years had it been since they had been threatened and provoked like this? Could it be that Li Zongjio really thought that he was invincible? Their Gu family was a family clan that had settled down for many years. Now that they had encountered Li Zongjio's provocation, they naturally wanted to kill Li Zongjio. They could even dismember him. However, Gu Yu knew that Li Zongjio wouldn't do such a reckless thing. He definitely had a backup plan. Since you want to negotiate, you should at least find a more reliable condition. Gu Yu said in a deep voice. He stared at Li Zongjio. Looking at Li Zongjio's appearance, he didn't seem like he was here to negotiate. He didn't know what Li Zongjio was thinking when he asked for all of the Gu family's wealth. Reliable. Li Zongjio seemed to think for a moment. Then, he glanced at the elder who had told him to scram. He went forward and stood in front of the elder. The elder was stunned. What was Li Zongjio trying to do? Could it be that he wanted to kill him in front of so many people? Li Zongjio directly grabbed the elder's ear and threw him to the ground. When the elder fell to the ground, a bright red patch could be seen on his ear. He had actually pulled off the elder's ear. The elder who had rolled to the ground immediately covered his ear and roared in pain. Following that, the desolate heaven essence in Li Zongjio's hand smashed into the elder's leg with a bang. This time, the bones in the elder's leg were shattered. Another scream that sounded like a pig being slaughtered rang out. The elder who was lying on the ground was in so much pain that he couldn't even make a sound. In the end, he fainted after resisting with great difficulty. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Li Zongjio actually dared to make the first move. The rest of the people were also extremely shocked. However, there were also some elders who reacted and rushed forward. How dare you disregard the dignity of my Gu clan? Watch me destroy you. Gu Mengliang roared and leaped toward Li Zongjio. His palm flashed and fell toward Li Zongjio's head. Who would have thought that while his figure was still in midair, he would feel a cold wind sweeping past him? When he turned his head, he saw that a huge python had unknowingly taken up residence on the roof. It opened its mouth and bit Gu Mengliang's body. Gu Mengliang was only at the Yuan King realm. How could he withstand the attack of the heavenly hell python? Immediately, the heavenly hell python bit Gu Mengliang's body into two halves with its fangs. Boom! Boom! The heavenly hell python didn't eat Gu Mengliang. After all, Gu Mengliang was only at the Yuan King realm. Such a meal was only junk food in the eyes of the heavenly hell python. The third elder, Gu Mengliang, who had bravely advanced, was cut in half just like that. Everyone couldn't help but gasp when they saw this scene. Once again, they looked at the heavenly hell python on the roof. It turned out that they had already been controlled by Li Zongjio. The speed of the Yuan beast's attack had already exceeded everyone's imagination. An ordinary Yuan King Realm Yuan beast simply couldn't reach such a level. What kind of Yuan King Realm Yuan beast could bite Gu Mengliang in half with just one bite? A Yuan King Realm Yuan beast. Everyone present had a look of horror in their eyes. Even the young elder, who had one of his ears pulled off and only had one leg left, couldn't move. Using his only remaining leg, he quickly moved a few times towards the distance. He even seemed to have forgotten the pain on his body. The terrifying Yuan beast that Li Zongjio had brought along was a great shock to them. "Didn't I see that you also wanted to make a move just now?" Li Zongjio pointed at the person in front of him. An elder, who was sitting in front of him, hurriedly waved his hand. Just now, he had indeed followed behind Gu Mengliang and said that he wanted to suppress Li Zongjio. However, after seeing Gu Mengliang's corpse and the blood that flowed out was still hot, he didn't dare to say anything. If Li Zongjio wanted to make a fuss and let the meta beast bite him, he would probably end up in the same or even worse state. Just thinking about it made him feel extremely pained. "That was you." No, it wasn't me," Li Zongjio pointed at a few people. These elders also waved their hands and expressed that they were willing to negotiate. This made it much easier for Li Zongjio. He nodded his head indifferently. "You are the head of the Gu family, right? Do you have any other opinions about my conditions?" Li Zongjio looked at Gu Yu and said. Although Gu Yu didn't believe that Li Zongjio would really dare to kill everyone in the Gu family in the Sacred Flame Royal City, Gu Yu didn't dare to use such a risky opportunity as a bet. What if Li Zongjio was really that kind of crazy person? No, Li Zongjio's current behavior was definitely crazy. However, once he agreed, he would have to give up almost 50 years of the Gu family's savings in the Sacred Flame Royal City. What else could he not do if he used these savings to exchange for his own life? Gu Yu gritted his teeth. "All right, I agree. This time, the Gu family has lost." Gu Yu slammed his palm on the table. After he finished speaking, he felt that he didn't have the face to face the ancestors of the Gu family. If the ancestors knew about this, they would immediately climb out of their coffins and strangle him to death. Agreeing to such conditions was simply a humiliation to the country. However, the other party was so strong. He could only wait until the future to settle the score with Li Zongjio. Saving his own life was the most important thing. "Go and put everything in the Gu family's treasury into the storage ring," Gu Yu said to the great elder behind him. The great elder of the Gu family was also filled with grief and indignation. In the process of collecting, he deliberately left behind a few treasures. At the very least, he had to leave something for the Gu family. When Li Zongjio received the storage ring, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. "Li Zongjio, you have to keep your word," Gu Yu said in a deep voice. "Of course," Li Zongjio said with a smile. Then he turned around and walked out. He seemed to have left just like that, but when he left, he closed the door behind him. Wait, did Li Zongjio forget something? Everyone raised their heads. Li Zongjio had left, but the heavenly hell python was still in the room. Chapter 888. With Li Zongjio's character, how could he just settle the matter with compensation? If compensation could solve so many problems, then why didn't Li Zongjio work hard to earn money? Even if he was hunted down and became a wanted criminal, Li Zongjio would definitely eradicate all these people. There was no other reason. It was because these people dared to touch the people of his Li family. Just this point alone was enough for Li Zongjio to exterminate them. There was no room for negotiation. The heavenly hell python was also the best at and liked to do such things. Within the house, the massacre was carried out wantonly, causing the house to be filled with blood-curdling screams. It was truly horrifying. The entire Gu family was like the wailing of ghosts. However, in the rest of the Sacred Flame Royal City, there was nothing strange or different. When Li Zongjio walked out, Li Yun also walked up. The reason why the commotion did not spread outside was because of the formation set up by Li Yun, which concealed the commotion within the Gu family. Finished talking? Li Yun looked at Li Zongjio, who walked out alone. She curiously looked towards the direction of the Gu family. Finished talking? Li Zongjio said faintly. Li Yun was also outside the formation just now. At such a close distance, she did not hear any commotion within the Gu family. Therefore, Li Yun did not know what happened inside. However, it was good that Li Zongjio was fine. Now, Li Yun was not worried about Li Zongjio at all. After all, Li Zongjio could directly summon the 4 primitive emperor-level meta beasts with a thought. If someone wanted to cause trouble, they would first have to feel the enthusiasm of the 4 primitive emperor-level meta beasts. The second day, some people realized that there was no movement in the Gu family. Some people who had business dealings with the Gu family also quickly went to the Gu family to investigate the situation. However, when they entered the Gu family, not a single person could be seen. It was as if everyone had disappeared. In such a huge Gu family, there was not a single person to be seen. Until now, everyone was horrified to discover this fact. The people of the Gu family were all dead. From top to bottom, not a single person was left alive. They were all killed. It was huge, but there was not even the slightest trace of blood in most of the places. It seemed that the Gu family members were all killed without going through an intense battle. Even their corpses could not be found. Judging from the surrounding traces, they should have been eaten by some giant beast. When the special envoys from the imperial city learned of this situation, they sealed up the Gu family and conducted an investigation. With such a big matter, even the head of the special envoy department, Sima Xingyan, felt that his entire head was swelling. From yesterday until now, there was only one person who had come to the Gu family. That was Li Zongjio. Was it Li Zongjio who did it? Right now, Li Zongjio was incredible. Last time, he directly burned down the Lingbo Palace. He was so arrogant, but no one could stop him. It was said that the Lingbo Palace's war god, Zhang Tianfeng, was the strongest person among the youths. His fighting strength was incomparably strong, and he had never lost a battle in his life. However, one of his hands was broken by Li Zongjio. If it was not for the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's elder who arrived in time, Zhang Tianfeng would have been beaten to death on the spot. After that, the people of the Lingbo Palace did not dare to do anything. Furthermore, Li Zongjio was now the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's honorary elder. Who would dare to touch him? That would be making an enemy out of the alchemists of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. With a single sentence, at least half of the Sacred Flame Imperial City would not be able to buy any pills. No one would dare to sell them to you in private, otherwise, it would be making an enemy out of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Right now, the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was under the support of the Xingyan dynasty. It was going uphill with difficulty, so not many people dared to act recklessly. Those who knew that it was the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's people who were doing this had to give them some face. Most importantly, they did not have any evidence. Also, no one came to report the death of the Gu clan's people. That might be because the entire family had gone on a trip. In short, there were all kinds of situations, so there was no need to worry about it. If someone came to find them, they would deal with it properly. As for now, they would put this matter aside for the time being. However, when they were free, they would still have to make a trip to Li Zongjio's place. At the very least, they had to make Li Zongjio have some sense of propriety. You said that you had wiped out the entire Gu clan. Even if there was no evidence, who would not know that you were the one who did it? In the entire Sacred Flame Imperial City, only you, Li Zongjio, would dare to do this. Zhang clan. On that day, Zhang Tianfeng was basically sent back to the Zhang clan. If one wanted to describe how embarrassing it would be extremely embarrassing. The dignified young genius of the Zhang clan was being carried back home. With one look, it was obvious that he was beaten up outside and could not return home. It was all thanks to Li Zongjio that he ended up like this. Therefore, after Zhang Tianfeng recovered from his injuries, he prepared to find trouble with Li Zongjio. After recuperating for 2 or 3 days, he realized that Li Zongjio was not in the city. He had just heard that Li Zongjio had returned. That was when he heard that the Gu clan had been wiped out. This caused the aggressive Zhang Tianfeng to instantly become dispirited. What? The Gu clan? Everyone in the Gu clan is dead. Zhang Tianfeng's eyes widened immediately. It was as if his eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. The last time he had been so shocked was when he learned that the Ancient One had been tortured miserably by Li Zongjio. Although the Ancient One was not a good friend of the Ancient One, he was still a member of the Wave Over Palace. Naturally, someone had to stand up for him when he was bullied to this extent. However, in the blink of an eye, the entire Gu family was gone. This made people feel that it was inconceivable. They didn't even dare to believe it. Given the Zhang clan's strength, they naturally understood. After Li Zongjio arrived at the Gu clan alone, the news of the Gu clan's annihilation spread. Everyone in the Gu clan seemed to have disappeared into thin air. No traces of them could be found because they were all in the heavenly hell python's stomach. Subsequently, Zhang Tianfeng was placed under house arrest by the Zhang clan. To outsiders, Zhang Tianfeng was said to be cultivating behind closed doors. This was because they were worried that Zhang Tianfeng would foolishly seek revenge on Li Zongjio and cause a lot of trouble. However, Li Zongjio and Zhang Tianfeng had fought before. Therefore, the Zhang clan immediately sent people to Li Zongjio's Bailu Manor with many good things in order to suppress this matter. Fortunately, Zhang Tianfeng was only an accomplice in the kidnapping of Li Zongjio's family. Furthermore, because the Zhang clan's attitude was good and the Gu clan had already suffered, they seemed to be in an even better position. When Li Zongjio received the gifts from the Zhang clan, he didn't even remember that he had beaten up someone called Zhang Tianfeng. Li Zongjio's way of handling this matter was to pick one person to beat up. That would be the Gu clan's bad luck. Who asked the Ancient One to be so arrogant? Li Zongjio couldn't be blamed. As for the rest, there was no need to beat them up one by one. That would be a waste of time. Li Zongjio's goal was to make everyone open their eyes and see clearly. No one could touch the Li clan's people. Since the gifts were delivered, Li Zongjio accepted them. The Zhang clan heaved a sigh of relief. They also understood Li Zongjio's intention. In the future, everyone should remember not to offend the Li clan. Chapter 889. Sacred Flame Royal City, Heavenly Pill Pavilion. The competition held by the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. The 10 people who would represent the Xingyan dynasty to participate in the pill gathering of the 3 dynasties had been selected. 5 of them were the main contestants, while the other 5 were just substitutes. Among the large group of people, although Su Sha had recommended everyone to Li Zongjio only knew 2 people, Qin Erishur and Qi Yanran. He was not surprised that Qi Yanran was able to get this spot. After all, Qi Yanran's level was not low. One of them was from the Purple Pill Academy, while the other 2 were from the Heavenly Time Medicine Manor. If Li Zongjio and Qin Erishur were included, then the Heavenly Time Medicine Manor was indeed very powerful. However, Li Zongjio had to pay attention to the main contestants. After all, the 5 of them would represent the Xingyan dynasty and represent the strength of the Xingyan dynasty. They must not be weak. 4C's Medicine Manor, Qi Yanran. Heavenly Pill Pavilion, Prescription. This name was not a joke. It was called Prescription, and it had a deep impact on many people. Even Li Zongjio looked at the prescription in front of him. A square face. Standing in the same place, he looked at Li Zongjio with eyes full of respect. Obviously, he was a talent secretly cultivated by the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. There was another person who came from a northern family. Nan Peixian. Li Zongjio had heard of this person in his previous life. In the next few decades, he would shine brightly. However, because he was too arrogant, he was directly killed. It was not a pity. After all, this kid really deserved a beating. In his previous life, Li Zongjio could not beat this guy. The name Nan Peixian sounded a little awkward. It was almost like 2 people's surnames were superimposed together. Qin Erishur is a reserve contestant? Li Zongjio asked. Qin Erishur also scratched his head. Being able to break into the top 10 was already pretty good. At that time, whether or not he would be able to play would be another matter. What about the other one? Li Zongjio said. Su Sha looked at the time. The other one is me. A loud voice came from the door. It sounded a little hurried. Although Li Zongjio had not communicated with this person for a while, when he heard this voice, he immediately recalled this person. Ling Yan. Ling Yan, dressed in a dark red dress, appeared at the door. How can she participate? Isn't she a teacher? Even Li Zongjio was puzzled. Why did Ling Yan come to join in the fun? Who said I can't participate? Ling Yan said proudly. Li Zongjio didn't understand what was there to be proud of, but Su Sha explained. As long as your age is not over 25 years old, you can participate. When Li Zongjio heard that age was not over 25 years old, he felt a little guilty. After all, he was more than 3,000 years old in his previous life. If he was tested, wouldn't it be very embarrassing? Although no one would believe it. But the truth was like this, so Li Zongjio's heart was more or less nervous. But he quickly calmed down. Looking at Ling Yan, the latter puffed out her proud little chest, like a little rooster that had won a battle. It turned out that this guy thought that he was very young, so he had such an attitude. Today, everyone gathered together for dinner. Tomorrow at noon, we will set off together. This time, we will be escorted by Vice Pavilion Master Chu Tairan and Head Zhou Zheng of the Elite Martial Hall. A few of the younger people also applauded. Then Chu Tairan and Zhou Zheng walked out. Zhou Zheng looked at Li Zongjio and nodded to Li Zongjio. The few people in front of them were quite familiar with Head Zhou Zheng's name. Because Sacred Flame Imperial City's ideology was more advanced, there were also some teaching martial arts halls in the city that specialized in selling their own unique skills. As long as you pay, you can come and learn. Moreover, you don't need to be a disciple. In the past, those people who had some unique skills were basically hidden. If you weren't a disciple of the sect, then you wouldn't be able to see anything at all. These were all life-saving things. How could they be casually taught? But since the opening of the first martial arts hall, they taught their own unique skills, from shallow to deep. If you could grasp the basics, then they would teach you something more profound. Originally, many people thought that this martial arts hall would collapse very quickly. However, that wasn't the case. Instead, he used this method to spread his martial arts reputation to all parts of the dynasty. His reputation immediately rose, and even people who were thousands of miles away came to learn from him. Even if you already had a master, you could still pay to learn from him. Subsequently, more and more people followed suit. However, the reason why such a martial arts hall could continue to be passed down and become popular was because it required real skills. If you weren't strong enough, it was almost impossible to survive in such a place. And Zhou Zheng's martial arts hall was ranked number 1 in Sacred Flame Imperial City. Whether it was popularity or strength, it was undoubtedly number 1. For such a legendary person to personally escort, besides feeling that it was grand, it also felt that the empire attached enough importance to this competition. However, if he didn't see wrongly, when Zhou Zheng came in, he actually greeted Li Zongjio first. Could it be that Li Zongjio and Zhou Zheng were related? After that, Chu Tairan also gave a speech and invited everyone to the restaurant opposite to have a meal together. It was considered a banquet for them to start work. At the same time, it was also a way for them to interact and get to know each other. When he heard that this matter would take nearly half a month, Li Zongjio was a little unhappy. Back then, he was too young when he agreed to Su Hong's request. After all, he only wanted to settle the trouble in front of him first. In addition, he saw how loyal Su Hong was, so he agreed. Who knew that it would be so troublesome? But now, the matters of White Deer Manor were more or less settled. The King of Fire was personally overseeing it. In addition, there were 4 primitive Emperor-level soul beasts. Even if the Sacred Flame Imperial family wanted to touch White Deer Manor, it would probably take at least half a year to discuss. Therefore, Li Zongjio could go without worries. However, Li Zongjio didn't participate in the dinner that night. Instead, he returned to White Deer Manor and arranged some matters. When Xiao Zhao came in front of the Black-Winged Blood Shadow Condor, his eyes almost popped out. When he heard that Li Zongjio wanted to give the Black-Winged Blood Shadow Condor to him, he shook his head like a rattledrum. No, this is an primitive Emperor-level soul beast. Which cultivator didn't want to have an primitive Emperor-level soul beast? It was almost a dream and they couldn't wait to have it immediately. However, Xiao Zhao actually firmly rejected it. However, rejecting Li Zongjio was an invalid action. Li Zongjio used the method that he mastered in his previous life to transfer the Black-Winged Blood Shadow Condor's spiritual imprint to Xiao Zhao. Out of the two Black-Winged Blood Shadow Condors, Li Zongjio chose the female one for Xiao Zhao. When Xiao Zhao's mind power merged with the Black-Winged Blood Shadow Condor, Xiao Zhao's mind power level reached the primitive emperor level directly. Ordinary people would need at least 30 to 50 years of cultivation. However, Li Zongjio completed it in one night, and he even helped others to complete it. Chapter 890. Of course, such an action would be very dangerous in the hands of other people. If the transfer of the spiritual imprint wasn't done properly, you might even die along with the soul beast and the person you wanted to transfer. Of course, if the transfer was done properly, such a thing wouldn't happen. This could be considered easy, but it was also difficult. Li Zongjio had done some research on mind power, so he succeeded easily this time. Xiao Zhao was a little excited when he sensed his own strength. It's not a good thing for you to have such strong mind power when you just entered the sect. Read this first. Read it at least 3 times a day. As he said that, Li Zongjio extended his hand and tapped Xiao Zhao's forehead gently. A message was transmitted directly into Xiao Zhao's mind. Xiao Zhao was slightly shocked when he received this message. White God Fu. Although Xiao Zhao still didn't understand what level of cultivation manual this White God Fu was, how could this White God Fu be simple when Li Zongjio made a move on a primitive Emperor Grade Yuan beast? Don't worry, young master. I will definitely keep this White God Fu in my heart. Upon seeing Xiao Zhao's expression, it seemed like he had already made up his mind to protect this thing with his life. Li Zongjio rubbed Xiao Zhao's head. I'll leave my huge family business to you. Xiao Zhao was like a little child as Li Zongjio rubbed his head forcefully. Xiao Zhao immediately felt a warm feeling. However, Xiao Zhao also ran away bashfully. Originally, Li Zongjio wanted to hand the Sky Hell Python over to Li Yun. However, Li Yun wasn't willing to do so. She had been beaten to death by Li Zongjio, so she didn't want the Sky Hell Python. This immediately made the Heavenly Yama Emperor Python that was still hiding on the mountain feel extremely wronged. Alright then, I'll catch you a good one next time. Li Zongjio said. The other Black-Winged Blood Shadow Condor wasn't suitable for Li Yun. As for the Sky Blaze Lion, it naturally wasn't suitable either. Li Yun cultivated array formations and needed a meta beast that was good at defense. The Heavenly Yama Emperor Python was the perfect choice. It was good at hiding and guarding. You might be eaten by the Heavenly Yama Emperor Python before you even got close. Li Yun also had a mission to fulfill. She had to go to the King of Fire's courtyard to learn about formations. When she was free, she had to help Nangong Wuji set up some basic facilities in Bailu Manor. The arrangement of the formation was especially important. As for Li Baichao and the others, Li Zongjio handed them over to Tian Fei and asked him to train them in martial arts. At the same time, Lu Wenshan regained some freedom. He appeared as a sinful lecturer. He imparted the most basic knowledge of elixirs to Lu Wenshan. In addition, he assigned many alchemy tasks to Lu Wenshan. As for the ingredients, he didn't have to worry at all. With the Li family's current wealth, refining some elixirs wasn't a problem at all. Most of the things they robbed from the Gu family were handed over to Xiao Zhao to handle. Li Zongjio also kept some useful things in his hands. No wonder so many people liked to be bandits. The speed of making money was indeed very fast. Even Li Zongjio wanted to continue robbing. He only hoped that more people would come to provoke Li Zongjio. Not only would he make you bankrupt, but he would also kill your entire family. Li Zongjio was that domineering. At noon on the second day, Li Zongjio also arrived at the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion early to wait. Although Li Zongjio's strength and status were different now, Li Zongjio didn't have the habit of acting like a big shot. If he should arrive early, he would arrive early. A person must keep his word. When he said the time, it would be the time. He couldn't be late. Li Zongjio had just arrived at the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion when he bumped into Qi Yenran, who was walking over from the opposite side. Morning. Li Zongjio said to Qi Yenran. Morning. Qi Yenran also said softly. Since the fight with Li Zongjio in the Four Seas Medicine Mansion, The relationship between Li Zongjio and the Qi family had become unclear. After that, the Qi family and Li Zongjio had a lot of connections. This made Qi Yanran have an inexplicable longing. Could this be a kind of fate? However, Qi Yanran also knew in her heart that Li Zongjio was such an outstanding person. Wherever his eyes passed, there would be mountains. Therefore, she had to become a mountain to be able to enter Li Zongjio's eyes. However, to say that she had chosen Li Zongjio seemed to be a bit too early for Qi Yanran. Even Qi Yanran couldn't explain her thoughts. If she had to use a word to describe it, it would be nervousness. You two are so early. Have you eaten? Kuan Arashur suddenly walked out with a paper bag in his hand. In the paper bag, there were fragrant meat buns. Give me a few. Li Zongjio directly reached in, grabbed the buns, and stuffed them into his mouth. It just so happened that he hadn't eaten before. There's also soy milk. Kuan Arashur handed a cup of soy milk to Li Zongjio. Where did you get so many buns? Li Zongjio glanced at it. I put them in my storage ring. My storage ring is custom-made. It can keep things warm. Kuan Arashur said while eating. A storage ring that could keep things warm. Only people like Kuan Arashur could do such a thing. Do you want some? Kuan Arashur handed the paper bag full of buns to Qi Yanran. No, thank you. Just give me a cup of soy milk. Qi Yanran said. In fact, she had received a high education. It was very rare for her to eat in public. At first, she was a little embarrassed. At the same time, she was also embarrassed to refuse Kuan Arashur in front of Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio and Kuan Arashur seemed to be eating very happily. Qi Yanran couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Hey! Li Zongjio suddenly called Qi Yanran. Qi Yanran didn't know why Li Zongjio called her. The next second, she felt something was stuffed into her mouth. Qi Yanran's whole face immediately turned red. Li Zongjio actually did such a thing. Qi Yanran even wanted to tear Li Zongjio to pieces on the spot. This is a bun from the city's Gubyuli bun shop. It's delicious. Li Zongjio and Kuan Arashur laughed and said. Looking at Qi Yanran's embarrassed appearance, Qi Yanran took a bite. The skin was thin, there was a lot of stuffing, the soup was delicious, and the temperature was just right. When the soft skin mixed with the soup entered her mouth, Qi Yanran immediately forgot about beating Li Zongjio. Delicious. Chapter 891. Qi Yanran had eaten it in public and her mouth was stained with grease. She even licked her lips at the end, as if she hadn't had enough. This alluring scene landed in the eyes of Nan Peixian, who had just walked in. Immediately, a strange glint flashed across his eyes. However, Nan Peixian quickly withdrew this glint. He pretended not to see Qi Yanran's embarrassed look and saluted her with cupped fists. Nan Peixian greets Miss Qi. Miss Qi is really punctual. I thought I would be the first to arrive, but I didn't expect Miss Qi to be one step ahead of me. Nan Peixian didn't think much of Li Zongjio and Kuan Arashur. Nan Peixian hadn't mingled in the sacred flame royal city before. When he was outside, he had never heard of Li Zongjio. He had some recollection of the Ancient One's name. After all, he had been very popular recently, but a few days ago, the Ancient One had given up on the competition for personal reasons. Nan Peixian had wanted to experience the Ancient One's strength, but he hadn't expected the Ancient One to go into hiding. As for Li Zongjio, he was at most a last-minute candidate from the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. He should be capable, but no one knew how capable he was. Nan Peixian didn't even think much of the Ancient One. Naturally, he didn't think much of Li Zongjio either. Nan Peixian's eyes had never been set on the Xingyan dynasty, but on the entire Xingwu continent. He, Nan Peixian, was not such a simple person. He would definitely achieve great things in the future. He would let everyone in the world know his name. Qi Yanran only glanced at Nan Peixian indifferently and didn't pay much attention to him. Based on a woman's intuition, she naturally knew that Nan Peixian was deliberately trying to get close to her. The more he acted like this, the more annoying he was. I say, are you blind? Can't you see that the two of us are here too? Kuan Arashur directly said to Nan Peixian. This person really had no eyesight. Could it be that he only had eyes for women? It was really funny. Kuan Erasure could naturally tell what Nan Peixian was up to. Didn't you see that Qi Yanran and Li Zongjio were in a heated relationship? How dare you try to poach her with your level? I'll break your legs in a minute. Therefore, Kuan Erasure naturally didn't give Nan Peixian any face. Nan Peixian glanced at Kuan Erasure. You're just a loser, what's there to be arrogant about? These faint words made Kuan Erasure choke to death. He had already exchanged blows with Nan Peixian a few days ago. However, even if Kuan Erasure went all out, he was still unable to defeat Nan Peixian. The other party seemed to have won easily. You said you won, but you actually didn't respect your opponent. That's why I've been displeased with this guy for a long time. If you keep talking, I'll tear your mouth. Li Zongjio glanced at Nan Peixian. How could a man like him have so many things to do? He was so noisy early in the morning. Nan Peixian didn't expect Li Zongjio to be so rude. He directly said that he was going to fight in front of Qi Yanran. As an alchemist in King City, he was actually so rude. He wouldn't lower himself to the same level as such a rude person. Nan Peixian pretended to be aloof and snorted coldly, as if saying that he disdained to argue with such a rude person. Try snorting again? Who would have known that this Li Zongjio was not so easy to deal with? This warning immediately made Nan Peixian extremely unhappy in his heart. Just as he was about to flare up, Chu Taishan and Zhou Jing also stepped forward. Chu Taishan and the others clearly saw the scene just now. If Nan Peixian didn't step forward now, he would probably be beaten up by Li Zongjio. When that happened, it would be unknown if he could still represent the Shengyan dynasty in the competition. Nan Peixian had just walked out of his own king's world, so he didn't know how powerful Li Zongjio was. However, Chu Taishan and the others were very clear. Zhou Jing saw with his own eyes how Li Zongjio crippled the Ancient One. The Ancient One was originally a protected target of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion and was also a seeded contestant. However, he was easily crippled by Li Zongjio. Even now, Li Zongjio wasn't punished at all. It was as if this incident didn't happen at all and the Ancient One didn't even exist. Li Zongjio's name had been completely removed from the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. After all, he was an honorary elder. His strength and status were all different. According to the procedures, when these children saw Li Zongjio, they had to call him elder. As for the matter of the Gu family being exterminated, although there was no definite result, anyone with a discerning eye knew that it was done by Li Zongjio. However, how was Li Zongjio able to do it without anyone knowing and kill them? Later on, there were many rumors that came out. It was said that the two great elders of the Gu clan, Gu Chuan and Gu Hai, were both killed by Li Zongjio. It seemed that when they ambushed Li Zongjio, they were killed by Li Zongjio instead. The sect leader of the Mystic Yuan sect and a few other elders also died at the hands of Li Zongjio. Although these rumors weren't confirmed, the Mystic Yuan sect had indeed closed their doors recently. This made the outside world unable to understand the situation in the Mystic Yuan sect. Therefore, the news that the sect leader of the Mystic Yuan sect had been killed spread more and more widely. However, the Mystic Yuan sect didn't make any moves. At this point, most people had already guessed it. This was true. Otherwise, this would be a huge insult to a sect. How could they say that the sect leader of the Mystic Yuan sect had been killed in broad daylight? If they didn't cause trouble for them, wouldn't they be in a mess because of what they said? The arrival of these two people could be considered to have saved the kid's life. After that, the rest of the members also arrived. Other than the accompanying participants, there were also some disciples from the Heavenly Pill Pavilion who could be considered as the accompanying staff. After all, when they arrived at the venue, there were many things that needed to be taken care of. They needed to communicate with the people on the other side. This was the only way to get things done. It could also save Li Zongjio and the others a lot of trouble. Su Sha was also among them. Obviously, Su Sha's ability to work had been greatly recognized. Everyone boarded the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's flying ship. The Heavenly Pill Pavilion's flying ship looked simple on the outside, but the interior was very luxurious. Its appearance was extremely low-key. However, in addition to the main flying ship, there were 2 other warships protecting it. There weren't many people who came to see them off. Even many people in the dynasty didn't think highly of this expedition. One had to know that the Heavenly Pill Pavilion had only been established for a few years. Even now, there were some famous alchemy clans in the underworld who had yet to make a move. Their strength was stronger than the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. In other words, the Heavenly Pill Pavilion's strength wasn't the top in the Xingyan dynasty. However, if they were to participate in the 3 dynasties alchemy gathering and were defeated outside, it would naturally be extremely humiliating when they returned. Chapter 892. The influence of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion had not reached that level yet. Li Zongjio could also see these people. Although the heroic elixir list had been listed, it basically covered some people who were halfway or barely passable. Some of the real top people. They were still hiding and even disdained to participate in some of the competitions held by the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. For example, Li Zongjio had met the Eastern Medicine clan at the Dark Horse Elixir meeting. Any one of those people could at least be ranked in the top 3 here. Only on such occasions would some experts emerge from time to time. Kuan Erishur had also fought with the people of the Eastern Medicine clan. He knew how powerful these people were. Although he was lucky enough to be ranked in the top 10 of the heroic elixir list, Kuan Erishur also knew that there was always someone better than him. The real experts were not limited to these people. He must strengthen his own strength. Seeing that Nan Peixian dared to have designs on Li Zongjio's woman, Kuan Erishur naturally would not let him go easily. He even kept a close eye on Nan Peixian along the way. If there was any movement, he would immediately come over. This made Nan Peixian clench his fists. He wished he could punch Kuan Arashi's head. If Kuan Erishur was in the north, the tendons of his hands and feet would definitely be broken. There were special cabins and berths on the flying boat. In addition, there were special lounges, communication rooms, reading rooms, and so on. It was like a private residence had been moved here. It wouldn't be a problem for him to live on the flying boat. The name of the flying boat was Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. We have to fly for 2 days to reach the Haiku dynasty. The competition hall of the 3 dynasties elixir meeting was set up in Tianxiu Elixir City of the Haiku dynasty. This trip was also to pass through the Blackwater Forest. Of course, this route did not pass through the sky of Luoxia City. It was a little distance away. Therefore, during this period of time, you are free to move around. You can communicate with each other more. Remember, don't fight. As Chu Tairan spoke, he stared at Kuan Erishur and Nan Peixian. Among all the people present, only the 2 of them had the ability to fight. Moreover, it seemed that the 2 of them didn't like each other. If there weren't so many people watching, the 2 of them would have already started fighting. Since there was nothing else, Li Zongjio went to cultivate. He couldn't afford to waste most of his cultivation time just because of this unimportant match. Although there wasn't much of a threat at the moment, there was still an extremely great threat. Sky Shaman. This person's strength was extremely strong in his previous life. Li Zongjio had only caught up to Sky Wu's cultivation later on. If he wanted to fight with this person, there was still a long way to go. Moreover, Wu Tian had obtained the Ghost King's secret realm directly. In a short period of time, he was bound to have an extremely powerful breakthrough. In addition, about a year later, a great treasure would be born. Li Zongjio also needed to prepare enough strength. Ling Yan wanted to chat with Li Zongjio for a while, but found that Li Zongjio had already returned to his birth cabin alone and began to cultivate. Ling Yan couldn't help but admire Li Zongjio. He didn't waste even a little bit of time. It was also because of this that Li Zongjio was able to have such a powerful strength and grow to the point where he was today. It wasn't without reason for a person to become outstanding. You only saw the success in front of him, but you didn't see the bitterness behind it. After seeing Li Zongjio go to cultivate, Kuan Erishur naturally didn't stay idle. There was a kitchen in the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion, and a special chef was waiting respectfully. After all, the tastes of many experts were ever-changing, especially when it came to food. Most of them had higher requirements. Although cultivation could alleviate hunger, eating was still a form of enjoyment. It couldn't be delayed like this. Most people were also immersed in cultivation. However, Nan Peixian deliberately stayed in the book cabin. This time, in addition to Ling Yan and Qi Yanran, there were two other women. Li Zongjio didn't know the background of these two women, but he heard that one of them was someone's granddaughter. He couldn't remember the specific name, but he felt that it was very powerful. And it seemed that they had some connections in the royal family. The other person also came from a relatively low-key family. The reason why these people came here was because the influence of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion was gradually spreading. Their family's foundation was not as good as the Northern Medicine family, so when they couldn't sit still, they had to respond to the call so that there wouldn't be any problems. Xie Wanji, grandfather Xie Deshun. If this name was mentioned, then people would immediately think of a person related to this name. The number one alchemist in the royal family, Mr. Deshun. This Xie Wanji was Mr. Deshun's granddaughter. To be able to have such a reputation, to be able to be crowned as the number one alchemist in the royal family, it was enough to see Mr. Deshun's strength. For many years, he had been refining elixirs for the dignitaries of the royal family. This elixir not only had to be effective, but also had to be extremely pure. Otherwise, some people with ulterior motives would do something to this elixir, which would bring great harm. This Xie Wanji was Xie Deshun's granddaughter. To say that her background was already not small, but she still couldn't become an official member and could only be a substitute. The reason was that this edge was overshadowed by Qi Yanran and Ling Yan. Miss Xie is reading the Thousand Mountain Flying Bird scripture, seeing Xie Wanji and another girl. This girl was called Yu Exin. Nan Peixian knew Yu Exin's identity. The Yu family that Yu Exin belonged to was slightly below the Nan family in terms of alchemy. Therefore, Nan Peixian wasn't interested in Yu Exin. Of course, if Yu Exin was willing to throw herself into his arms, he wouldn't mind. Seeing the book in Xie Wanji's hand, Nan Peixian deliberately walked up and said. Xie Wanji closed the book and looked at Nan Peixian on the opposite side. Young Master Nan has studied this Thousand Mountain Flying Bird scripture? Hearing Xie Wanji's words, Nan Peixian immediately knew that there was hope. At least she didn't directly reject him. To be honest, this Thousand Mountain Flying Bird scripture was written by an old ancestor of my Nan family with his life's work. Every disciple of the Nan family must know it by heart. Nan Peixian said with a low-key smile. But the expression on his face seemed to be as proud as it could be. Chapter 893. With the signboard of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion here, even the bandits in the sky did not dare to come close. Let's not talk about what kind of big shot was in the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. If he accidentally bumped into the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion, he would probably lose his entire fortune. How would they dare to approach? All of them hid far away. In addition, the two guard battleships of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion, one in front and one behind, were extremely ferocious existences. Once they were determined to be an existential threat, it would not be a problem for them to directly blast you down. Above the Blackwater Forest. As the Heavenly Pill Pavilion flew, it broke through layers of clouds. Inside the airship, Zhou Zheng was still meditating and cultivating. Although it was said that he was cultivating, the aura around his body was wrapped around the entire Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. This time, Zhou Zheng was not here to travel, but to protect these important seeds of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion. Of course, Zhou Zheng also knew that the pressure on this trip would be relatively less. After all, there was Li Zongjio with him. Zhou Zheng was not clear about the power that Li Zongjio possessed. However, if Zhou Zheng could feel the threat, then it was definitely not simple. Many years of cultivation experience told Zhou Zheng that Li Zongjio was definitely not in existence to be trifled with. Even in the cabin, one could see the scenery outside the window. When Li Zongjio looked out of the window, there was light flowing below. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had also passed through the Blackwater Forest alone. However, in his previous life, he had offended some people. In the end, he had no choice but to pass through the Blackwater Forest to escape. Of course, when Li Zongjio returned, he killed all of these people. As for what kind of enemies they were, Li Zongjio could not remember clearly. In the 3,000 years of experience in his previous life, it was normal to have a few enemies who would not rest until one of them was dead. In this life, he once again rushed out of the Blackwater Forest and headed towards the Haiku dynasty. There was a different feeling in his heart. I heard that the right to host the competition changed hands several times. Originally, it belonged to the Heavenly Fire dynasty. Later, it was transferred to the Haiku dynasty. I don't know why. Xie Wanji's gaze was as calm as water. While looking at the scroll in her hand, she seemed to be chatting with Nan Peixian about this matter. I'm not too sure about that. However, I've heard about the opponents of the two empires. Nan Peixian said. As the main contestant this time, Nan Peixian had a lofty image in front of the two women. Of course, this was what Nan Peixian thought in his heart. It had to be like this. Oh, I wonder, who are the most threatening people to you? Xie Wanji could not help but say. Heavenly Flame Dynasty, Heavenly Flame Pill Prefecture, Muqingyo. Haiku Dynasty, Heichu Pill Hall, Longxian. These two people are extremely famous in their respective empires. Moreover, their status is not low. Even the Ancient One, who was extremely famous in the city, pales in comparison to them. These two people will be the greatest enemies of the Xingyan dynasty. Nan Peixian had also done his homework. Moreover, he was aware that the origins of these two individuals were not simple. His eyes were burning with radiance as he spoke. It was as though he had already imagined the scene of him fighting with these people on the Wind Cloud Arena. However, Nan Peixian said that even the Ancient One paled in comparison to these two people. At the same time, he was filled with fighting spirit towards these two people. Could it be that he, Nan Peixian, was stronger than the Ancient One? Speaking of the Ancient One, I heard that he was also one of the contestants this time. How did he suddenly lose his qualification and disappear? Uxn was also from the outer city. Before this, she had not heard of the matter between Li Zongjio and the Ancient One. She also did not know that Li Zongjio had burned down Lingbo Hall and broke one of Zhang Tianfeng's arms. This news had been suppressed by people who cared about their reputation, especially the Gu family. However, the Gu family had been wiped out too quickly. Even the main family of the Gu family did not know about it. The Gu family in the Sacred Flame Imperial City had already been wiped out. They were probably still waiting for their reply. The Ancient One is nothing. It's good that he has gone into hiding. I guess he's afraid. Nan Peixian said calmly. This kind of thing was not unheard of. If he accidentally lost the reputation and prestige that he had accumulated over the years because of this competition, he would choose to give up. This was a wise choice. In Nan Peixian's opinion, the Ancient One was just like that. Otherwise, what other reason could there be? However, Xie Wanji just smiled faintly and did not say anything. Could it be that she had to drag Li Zongjio out to testify? Then, in young Master Nan's opinion, what do you think of the honorary elder of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion, Li Zongjio's strength? Li Zongjio, the honorary elder of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Li Zongjio's name was spread by word of mouth among these alchemists. Almost no one didn't know Li Zongjio's name, so each and every one of them was very surprised. When they came to the Sacred Flame Imperial City to participate in the competition, they heard the name Li Zongjio the most. He was the king of alchemists. There was even news that Li Zongjio was a grade 6 alchemist. Such a young grade 6 alchemist was directly invited to become the honorary elder of the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. Xie Wanji had wanted to meet Li Zongjio for a long time. However, Li Zongjio did not seem to be easy to get along with, and he did not sound as powerful as he seemed. He seemed more like an ordinary person. Therefore, Xie Wanji found it hard to imagine. Li Zongjio actually defeated the Ancient One? Moreover, he looked like a grade 6 alchemist. He is just a kid who was lucky enough to trigger the pill lightning. If you want to become a grade 6 alchemist, you must trigger the pill lightning 3 times in the realm of grade 5 alchemist. Only then will you be able to stabilize your status as a grade 6 alchemist. I think that Li Zongjio triggering the pill lightning that day was just an accident. There is nothing to be proud of. Nan Peixian seemed to be very disdainful of Li Zhongjio. Although I've never seen Li Zhongjio in action, everything will be clear when we reach the storm platform. This pretentious guy won't be arrogant for long. Nan Peixian said lightly. Everyone be careful. There's a black cloud storm ahead. The flying boat will experience violent turbulence, but don't panic. Black cloud storm. This was not just a small black cloud storm, but a whole storm. Once the terrifying storm group condensed together, the power it produced would be incomparably huge. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.